today. The Independent Election Boundaries Commission has issued a deadline for presidential and gubernatorial candidates to announce their running mates in the run-up to the August 9th elections. Various presidential candidates as well as governors have until midnight to submit the names of their running mates to the IEBC Sunday. Kenya Kwanza flag bearer William Ruto announced Mathira MP Rigathi Gachagua as his running mate.
My friend, I present to you the Kenya Kwanza running mate candidate, my brother and friend, Rigathi Gachagua.
Meanwhile, despite pressure from leaders in Azimio to have Odinga name his running mate at the Kamkunji Stadium in Nairobi yesterday, Odinga instead went on to state his plan for the country should he win the August 9th elections.
Hello, nimeangalia hali ya anga na mimi nataka kuambia nyinyi kwamba nitatangaza kule town KICC, nitatangaza sawa sawa saa 5 kule KICC nitatangaza.
Meanwhile, it remains to be seen whether Kalonzo Musyoka will name his running mate today, given that Wiper Deputy Secretary General Dan Mazo's statement that they have already submitted Kalonzo's name as a presidential candidate. Now, tensions in Azimio are high, following Wiper Party threatening to move to court to seek to withdraw from the political outfit led by Attorney Dan Mazo. Wiper says the agreement agreed upon is illegal and that they want Kalonzo to go all the way to the ballot as the president, according to Wiper National Executive Committee that met Saturday and agreed that Musyoka departs from the coalition. In what now raises eyebrows, Mazo claimed that Musyoka's name has already been submitted to the IEBC as a presidential candidate. It is also alleged that Kalonzo may today announce his running mate ahead of the deadline set by the IEBC for presidential and gubernatorial candidates to name their running mates. This as Azimio spokesperson Professor Makamutua said Kalonzo's advisors were misleading him. According to him, Kalonzo signed every page of the agreement, meaning that he read the content and accepted it, thus making it difficult for the contract to be broken. Kalonzo has been pushing to be Raila Odinga's running mate. It will be remembered that Kalonzo did not attend Azimio's rally in Kamkunji grounds yesterday, but instead held a meeting with the KANU leader Gideon Moi. This, as it has become increasingly clear that most of the leaders who participated in the final bid to nominate Ruto as running mate favored Kindiki Kithure instead of Rigathi Gachagua. It is reported that Kindiki won the votes by the leaders of Mount Kenya and Nairobi who are allowed to participate in the event. In those votes, Kindiki is reported to have received 23 votes against Gashagua's 4. Speaking on KTN News, Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen admitted that Kindiki had defeated Gachagua in the polls but denied that it was in contrast to the majority of votes cast by voters.
I think honestly it was almost like a dead end in terms of two of them. They were matching. It's not true that it was 24 versus 4. Kindiki had about 5 or 6 more votes than Gachagua, but it was part of the indicative of the strength of Professor Kindiki as a person who was able to bring these other leaders together. Remember that Professor Kindiki has been majority leader. He understands how to work together with various members of parliament, and his interpersonal skills could have given him an edge, but it was not so much as to worry anybody. Even if you look at the opinion polls, both internal and external, that have been done by ourselves and the ones that have been done by other institutions that have helped us to look at the figures, the difference was 1 or 2 percentage points.
He says there were other questions that were considered in reaching the final decision. However, speaking on Citizen Television, Gachagua had a different statement, saying that the DP not only involved officials but also residents of Mount Kenya.
Other than listening to the members of parliament, the deputy president made 30 calls in each of the 11 counties and talked to different people, women, youth, and collected their views. So it was a marathon exercise because he didn't want to make a mistake. A running mate, you must get it right. You must get somebody you have similar chemistry, somebody whom you share policies, somebody whose working style is acceptable to you, somebody who also understands you, somebody with the right temperament. There are many parameters. It's not just talking to leaders.
We will be following up on developments today with regards to Martha's running mate and Raila Odinga's big statement, also Kithure Kindiki's. My name is Dennis Asset and this is Newswire. Good morning.
97.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
This nation has never healed genuinely from the 2000-2008 violence. We've never had a healing process. We swept it under the rug.
Let me tell you, the handshake was the most disastrous political event in the history of country after the coup attempt of 1982.
There's no Kikuyu pothole, low lack of water,
right.
or Kamba, lack of traffic.
Yeah.
There is no Luya lack of drugs in the hospitals. Or the low one. All our issues are the same issues.
If you are in a room and just about everybody in that room has a court case or another, what impression does that give you?
What are you saying? Why haven't you done it in the last 20 years? But they're telling us, like August, some miracle is going to happen. My friend, I want to tell Kenyans you'll be in for a rude shock.
The Situation.
Looking at Monday morning, and it looks like traffic has started on most of these Nairobi streets today. In terms of what will happen as the day goes on, folks will be using the expressway, so likely that traffic will reduce in some parts of the city. But we're going to keep an eye on things. The Thika Superhighway already building up as you get into the city this morning. Coming off Mombasa Road is not too bad. Should be all right. But we're going to have some action in the eastern part of the city coming off Jogo Road going towards Kamkunji. Apart from that, nothing really going on Uhuru Highway just a little bit as you get past that Bunyala Road roundabout, and you see some traffic pick up as you get into the city. Let's keep an eye on things this morning. About 6:30, we'll take a look and see how things have progressed. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Monday.
Spice FM, Nyeri. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have CT Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the...
Good morning. And how are you doing today? 9 minutes after 6 o'clock, and you tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. How are you this morning? I'm just here, by my lonesome, hoping that somebody comes and pays attention to me. TikTok. No time like the present.
Kwani, when did it become 6 o'clock?
Only 8 minutes
When did
ago.
6 arrive?
Only 8 minutes ago.
Surely. Me, I didn't know.
But it was 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So now, how did you now know?
I'm hearing you talk. I'm wondering, why is this one talking? Why is she talking now? Yeah? How are you?
Mimi.
Mm-hmm.
Mimi, Nico, fine, thank you.
Okay. Are you feeling blessed?
Amen, no.
Very good.
Highly favored, no doubt.
Very good. You had a good weekend.
I did.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we like such people.
You like people who had good weekends?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
People who start the week grumpy and such.
Don't like them?
People who have had a good weekend are the best people.
Wow. And how are you this morning?
I'm fine. I had a good weekend.
I'm very happy to hear that.
I'm one of the best people.
You like yourself?
Yes. I like people like me.
This is Eric. Be like Eric.
Yes. Yeah, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the 16th day of March 2022. We are on to the second half of the month. Okay. Mafuta yamepanda na shilingi ngapi?
Nakwambia tano. 150 Kenya shillings for a litre of
Super petrol in Nairobi.
131 for diesel. I mean, ridiculous things are going on. I don't even know.
And you can imagine there's already that stabilization mechanism that's been put in place. If it wasn't for that,
you'd be buying fuel at probably 190.
Uganda is much more expensive. Rwanda, worse. DRC, forget it.
Don't even talk about that.
Forget it. Just forget it.
Yeah? Things are thick.
Someone should go and tell Biden, you know what, stop this story. Just stop let there be
fuel.
talks between Russia and Ukraine.
Let them have a conversation.
Let them go have a conversation. Let this problem end.
Let them iron out their things. Man.
Yes.
Because the rest of us are suffering as a result of this bullish attitude.
Yeah. And every new day, you just hear America saying, we are announcing an extra $100 million, $100 billion military support, military aid
for
to Ukraine. What does that mean? We want them to keep fighting.
In this case, the benefit of war far outstrips whatever demerits that they have seen before. The benefit of, and it's unfortunate, the benefit of this war for the United States, I mean, it's ridiculous. And the rest of the world, unfortunately, has to suffer. You know? Somebody has stubbed their toe and the rest of the world is limping. Come on.
But that is what often happens with war.
Indeed. For the benefit of a few.
You know, with the hindsight, the question that is always asked is, why did you even get in this war in the first place?
Yeah.
What take a step back. What are we fighting about in the first place? You know?
Precisely.
Why are we here? And if you look at Ukraine, the longer this conflict continues, the worse the country gets in terms of destruction. That country
my friend is being flattened.
Yeah.
The country was stable.
No, the country was perhaps too stable for Russia.
My goodness.
But you see, the conversation that isn't being had is the role that NATO has played in this whole thing.
Yep.
It could be inadvertent, but the moment there were issues and talks of NATO and talks of Ukraine joining NATO, in terms of security, one could argue and one could even see Russia's point of view.
Yep.
A threat was being brought to your doorstep.
Anyway, welcome to the conversation. Today, we are reflecting the politics of the weekend, plus the politics of 11 a.m. KICC today, plus everything else. Today is the deadline that presidential candidates have been given, and also gubernatorial candidates, to present their running mates to the IEBC. Okay? Midnight tonight. All people who want to be governors across the 47 counties, go to IEBC today, present yourself and your running mate. All people who want to be president, whether through political parties or independent, go to IEBC today, present yourself plus your running mate. And then you shall get clearance.
Today is the day.
Leo ndio ile siku.
In Kiswahili, leo ni leo.
Yes. Lero ni lero. Francis Wanderi is a commissioner with the IEBC. He'll be with us at 8 a.m. to talk about this and tell us, okay, so after today, then what? You know, the people it's not really clear what all these timelines are, right? Okay, so there was May 2nd, now there's May 16th, now there's so after.
So May 16th comes and goes, then what?
Then what? So they've presented it. So when are MCAs going to IEBC and MPs and senators and women reps? When are they going to IEBC? And then what are you going to do once they present themselves? How are you going to clear them? Is it just that whole conversation we're having the other day? If you know somebody really, really has been impeached, are you going to clear them?
Surely.
So that's at 8 o'clock. At 7, we talk about the place of persons with disabilities in political parties. Now, we know that the issue of the 2/3 gender balance was given to political parties to take care of. They didn't do a very good job of it. What have they done in terms of the other minority groups? Persons with disabilities is one of those minority groups. What have they done? Wanja Maina is the national chairperson of the Persons with Disability in the Jubilee Party. She'll come and tell us what Jubilee has done to help them and to also promote the plight and to mainstream the agenda of persons with disability. There's and more. Give it here for that. COVID in Akaje.
Let's look at world numbers now. 521,230,984. So we're looking at in terms of the numbers around the world so far. It seems as though things are blowing up in North Korea. According to the New York Times, being reported this morning, North Korea says its COVID outbreak is spreading fast. State media reported 21 new deaths and a huge jump in suspected cases on Saturday. but it was unclear how many had been definitively linked to the coronavirus. A significant surge in suspected coronavirus infections and deaths Saturday as it struggled to contain its first reported outbreak, with Kim Jong-un saying that it could be the greatest crisis in the country's history. State media said an additional 174,000 had symptoms like fever that could be due to COVID, nearly a tenfold jump from the 18,000 cases reported Friday. So they're looking at a significant number of cases reported on a daily basis, between 18 and 20,000 cases per day. The thing is, what they're trying to trace is the origin of this now wave. Because
this is the first.
This is the first.
Even in 2020.
The history of COVID, that North Korea has had this issue. North Korea was on the bottom rung of reporting when it came to this. There were a few cases here, 3, 4. It was insignificant. But now, out of the blue, all of a sudden, they unfortunately do not know the origin. They cannot say unequivocally that this is where this all began. And this is what is causing them grief, that they do not know. Was it somebody who entered into the country? Was it a latent case? What was it? And this is what is causing the problem. People are reporting with fever, and unfortunately they don't have enough test kits. So Jong-un is saying that the crisis for him is not that people have COVID. The crisis is that they're not able to test quickly, and then unfortunately hospitals now are being burdened. And he says, we also do not know if these folks are sick with the flu or sick with COVID because we're unable to test. And this is what now is forming the crisis for them. Just reading over some of these stories, the initial thought was that, it could be then again Western media propaganda. But here we are looking at a real situation where the country's president is saying, guys, this is something that could be potentially serious for us. If we look at the population of North Korea compared with what they're getting on a daily basis, it is for them a sticking point, or rather something quite worrying for them. 18,000 to 20,000 cases a day is a big deal.
It's a big number.
It's a big number.
But why is it that all of a sudden Northern Korea have decided to give us all this information?
That's what I was about to ask.
They've been very tight-lipped about anything that they do, whether it's nuclear testing and weapons, whether it's the health situation, whether it is any kind of geopolitical stand or leaning, always been extremely tight-lipped. Why be so forthcoming, and no less from the president's mouth, about what is going on in the country, about the lack of testing kits, about the inability to handle the situation? Very rare that they would show any sign of weakness. Very, very rare.
Well, it brings to question even the figures that we were talking about earlier on, which were lower. What do we actually know? I mean...
That's the thing.
Yes. What do we actually
It's
know?
either, even when he's saying that there are 170,000 people who have symptoms of COVID, that could be just a tenth or just a 1% of the actual number. Or it could also be, just like we were saying the other day with China, could also be some political statements that are being made. There's something that's happening in that region. There's something that's happening around that region with those countries that are friends. And you just don't know.
You're not really sure what it is, but what is certain is this. COVID hasn't gone away. No. It may be a disease that we now know about, understand a lot more than we did at the beginning, and we know how to manage. But the thinking that is accompanied by activities that seem to indicate that COVID has gone away, it hasn't.
It has not.
It hasn't. And we are yet to see yet a new surge of COVID, and it will come.
It's very true. I mean, Secretary General, World Health Organization, Ghebreyesus said, we are opening up the world, which is all right, but we must be alive to the reality. There's a huge potential for resurgence. Another variant, it's very possible that this could happen. Let me give you really quickly of numbers in the country. And these are the numbers in terms of vaccines we're still looking at. We haven't had any new vaccines coming to the country over the last few months, over the last 2.5 months. But still with 27 million, just 30.7% of the population has been vaccinated. This is what they wanted by December. This is what has actually happened. The hope that more would be done by now was also quite... the hope was huge. It was huge hope that this would happen. That to get to about 50% by June. The likelihood of that happening then now is pretty low looking at these numbers right now.
20 after 6. We are live streaming the show. SpiceFM KE of Facebook and YouTube. Are you online? Say hello. We'll be doing the usual roll call after we take a look at the weather forecast. This is the
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at 17, highs of 25 and lows of 16. At 13, it's mostly clear in Nakuru with highs of 25. We'll see lows of 13. It's raining in Nyeri at 15, highs of 23 and lows of 14. At 12 degrees, Eldoret is clear. We'll see highs of 26 through today. Partly cloudy conditions at 25 in Mombasa. We'll see highs of 31, highs of 30 in Malindi, where rain showers are also beginning. Coming down to lows of 26. It's mostly cloudy at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 29 and lows of 18, while in Kakamega it's mostly cloudy at 18. 28 will be the high, coming down to lows of 16. It's raining in Kampala at 20, highs of 27 and lows of 18, while Dar es Salaam is mostly clear at this point at 23. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 22. 8 degrees and mostly clear in Johannesburg, highs of 18 and lows of 7. And we're looking at cloudy conditions at 27 in Lagos, highs of 33. Today, 33 will also be the high in a clear Kinshasa, currently at 24. 25 degrees and sunny, a warm afternoon in Beijing, highs of 29 and lows of 12, while Paris is mostly cloudy with a wind warning of yellow. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 16. 13 degrees and clear conditions in London, highs of 22, back down to lows of 13, and it's partly cloudy at 16 in New York, highs of 26 and lows of 16.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
6 people are online.
Balozi Eric Meja, Saregaya Likuyani Kakamega. I don't know which is which. Sub-district location, Kakamega County, already locked in this morning. Ondicho says, good morning, student from Mwengi. Victor says, good morning, guys. Been waiting for you since Friday at 10:01 a.m. Well, all right. We're back. Good morning, lovely people. Angela Nyang says, good morning and have a great week. Tuning from Kitale in Birunda. And Willie Bazu says, good morning. Washira says, good morning, guys. Have a good week. Okay, wait. Good morning, again. Eric, CT, and Ndu. I had a good weekend full of drama and razzmatazz. Wow, okay. And you're waiting for today's second episode. Good morning to other listeners. Indeed, good morning to you. If they were Francis says, good morning from Mombasa. Sky Karish says, good morning as well. Amos Freeman also is tuning in this morning. And Michael Gitao says, good morning, folks. Looking forward to greater conversations. Last week was excellent. Asante Saf, thank you for joining. County 014 is listening loud and clear. CT will tell us where that is in just a moment. Robert Bogo says, good morning, tuning from Mombasa. Harry Bloodwood Seme says, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice. Love that, indeed. Good morning, Nakuru. That's where Jose J is this morning. Eddie Oduor says, good morning, Eric, Latiff, CT Muga, and your royal correctness, lady. Wow, okay. I'm fine, but deeply disappointed that fuel is settling at 155.40 in Koru. I am also angry at our politicians who keep threatening us with defection and creating crisis in political parties. Seems you woke up a tad angry, Eddie. See how we can do that this morning, right? Already tuned in. That's where Owachwi is tuned in from this morning. So many of our online. Tune in from Chaka, that's where Paul Muga is. Patrick, Chris, Brian, Omonupi, everybody, we see you. Karibuni sana.
Welcome, everybody. CT, you have the proverb, don't you?
I do. Okay. And we have moved to the Republic of Congo. Congo Republic. Or is it Republic du Congo?
So this one is which one?
There's DRC. Next to DRC, Republic.
And the DRC is what?
Kinshasa.
The Democratic
and the other one, Brazzaville.
So one is the Democratic Republic. This one now is just the Republic. Without the democracy.
Yes.
The democracy, my friend, can cross the border. If it's on one side, it can go to
cross the river.
Yes. Precisely.
Okay.
All right. If you tell people to live together, you tell them to quarrel.
If you tell people to live together, you tell them to quarrel.
Yes.
There's no living together without quarrel.
People living together, working together, they are going to disagree.
You mtagongana once in a while.
Yes.
Kama mjagongana mnangoja tu.
It's a question of time. Views have to differ at some point. And depending on how people handle the difference of views, the disagreement can become slightly more than just being vocal. And even if it's vocal, it can get loud.
Yes. As long as it shouldn't get physical.
No, it need not get physical. But for most people, it being verbal is adequate.
Can do some serious damage with your words.
Precisely. And not just words, the volume as well. Conversation.
In whose eyes is that conversation? Oh, God.
Okay, let's look at the newspaper headlines. www.standardmedia.co.ke. Be a member of our online community by logging on, creating an account, and always just checking whatever is happening on a daily basis. Audio, visual, text, stories. What are you looking at?
Well, I mean, of course, the whole politics of the day, but I think there's something really interesting here in terms of getting something sorted that has probably been one of Kenya's the continent's highest burdens when it comes to disease. A vaccine is delivering hope for families hit by malaria. The malaria vaccination is being undertaken in Homa Bay Town, Ndiwa and Kabondo Kasipo. It was tragic. This disease is a monster, remarks Samson Okoh. He expressed the pain of losing his 7 children in 5 years to malaria. When they fell ill, Okoh thought it was just a fever, but their condition worsened before losing the battle in hospital. The children, who were between 1 and 5 years old, died of acute malaria. Death snatched my hopes for the future. Had I known that malaria kills, I would have taken them to hospital earlier, said the father of 15 with 2 wives. The first wife lost 3 of her 11 children, while the second wife lost 4 of her 10 children. Had it not been for malaria, Mr. Okoh would now be a father of 21.
What?
Since death struck the family, each one now sleeps under an insecticide-treated mosquito net. I better spend 50 shillings to buy a mosquito net than risk the health of my children, he said. He said the enrollment of the malaria vaccine is a silver lining in the fight against malaria. My 5 children below 2 years have been vaccinated against malaria. I wish the jab was introduced even earlier, so it would have saved my children who died. Beatrice Nabwire in Mungachi village in Busia is also a victim of the disease, which claimed the life of her 2-year-old grandson this year on the 9th of February at Busia Hospital. After the death of my grandson, I learned that malaria kills. The 50-year-old attributes the delay in seeking health intervention to financial constraints. I did not have any money for transport as the hospital is located far from here. Elsewhere, the pediatric ward in Busia, malaria-related admissions are overwhelming. 4-year-old Alvin lies on the hospital bed unconscious after an emergency admission. He had convulsions, respiratory distress, fever, and is anemic. Eunice Buluma, his grandmother, said she's thankful that her grandson is responding well to treatment. A number of children are in this critical state. So the story goes on to relay, what has happened with children, especially who have died from malaria in the recent months. But now the vaccine that, has been worked on for years and years, and finally now is being administered, is a silver lining and it's hope. But there's something that struck me here amongst these stories, that a lot of these children are being taken to hospital by their grandparents, who are their primary caregivers at this point. And just looking at some other research that has been done, that these children are being taken care of their grandparents because their parents are not there, and in a lot of cases succumb to HIV. So then their grandparents become their primary caregivers, and they so you can imagine the burden of HIV for their immediate children, and now the burden of malaria for their grandchildren. And so the hope had been that there would be a vaccine for malaria, and they're seeing this in their lifetime. But then the greater hope would have been that there would have been some kind of treatment for HIV that would guarantee the life of their immediate children. So this is a good thing when we see that it's saving lives, but it's unfortunate that so many lives have been lost. And even more importantly, people still did not have this intimate knowledge that malaria kills.
I was about to ask that question because how old is the man you've referred to in that story? The one who would have been a father of 21 had the children not died.
So it doesn't give his age. We don't know how old he is.
Several things I'm asking. I'm asking that because I'm assuming that this person grew up in this region.
Right.
So he must have seen death associated with malaria. So saying that he did not know malaria could kill.
But he's not the only one. The next woman who's taking care of her grandson said the same thing. The other one who's taking care of a granddaughter
said the same
thing.
City, you've worked in this region.
We did not know that malaria kills.
You've worked in this region in healthcare, all right? Is it really possible that we can say that many people do not know malaria kills?
That they think they would just get a fever and then they would get over it.
They do know that malaria kills. They actually do know. But one of the problems with malaria is malaria has been around for so long that even when people acknowledge that it kills, people believe in many cases they can self-medicate. And usually when they self-medicate, they deal with the symptoms of the disease. Okay. Again, the idea of going to hospital for a checkup, for most people, it's usually when you're deathbed, you are really sick.
You're taken to hospital.
Yes, not you go, you're taken to hospital. And given medication. So the hope is that the hospital will have medication for malaria. But the question that you ask, why is it that you find that it's grandparents? Remember, one of the outcomes of the HIV scourge in Luo Nyanza was that very many parents died and left children with their grandparents. Now, one may argue that it was a long time ago, and many of those who are children have now become adults. They have. But it isn't as though HIV went away. What happened was it stopped killing people at the rate that it was killing people. Because of ARVs and because of the care and treatment that was available in that entire region, people have been able to live healthily and to live well with HIV. Okay? But the truth of the matter is this. If you're talking about a homestead, and you talk about a rural homestead, where both parents are either just subsistence farmers or one parent is away and working, if there is need for a child to go to hospital and there's a grandparent, who do you think has more time on their hands?
Sure.
So that is the logic. But the issue of malaria, yes, people know malaria kills, and people will go and get treated for malaria. The problem with HIV is this. HIV doesn't kill anyone. It's the opportunistic diseases that will kill you. And malaria happens to be just one of them. Because once your immune system has been compromised, it is possible for any disease that comes across you, not you coming across it, to actually ensure that you become
open season now for any.
Kabisa, and you become an ancestor very quickly.
Wow.
Yes.
Let's take a break. 27 minutes to 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We're looking at the newspaper headlines. Let's first take a look at the traffic. How are the roads looking like this lovely Monday morning?
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Kisumu County, are you ready? Kenya, are you ready? Africa, are you ready?
Yes, we are always ready.
Kisumu City County has grown to be trusted to host visitors from Africa and the world in the 9th AfriCities Summit to be held between the 17th to the 21st of May 2022. With every opportunity in all sectors, we invite you to come and join us for this wonderful event that will host over 800 delegates, over 250 investors and major African companies. The theme for this year's summit is the role of intermediary cities of Africa in the implementation of Agenda 2030 of the United Nations and the African Union Agenda 2063. For more details, visit www.africities.org.
Standard Group's Farm Kenya initiative is the umbrella entity for all agriculture-related channels, activities, and investments. The media platforms under the Farm Kenya initiative include the Smart Harvest Weekly Pullout in the Saturday Standard, KTN Farmers TV, a 24-hour agribusiness TV station, Maisha Kilimo, a weekly agriculture show on Radio Maisha, AgriTalk on SpiceFM's morning show The Situation Room, and Grind na Agribiz on Vibes Radio morning show Morning Vibes. Find us online at www.farmers.co.ke, an integrated website that creates and aggregates agri-content, hosts a digital marketplace, and wide range of agri-data. Other platforms include specialized events such as the annual Mkulima Expo, quarterly Farmers Kenya Breakfast, and dedicated social
Traffic building up on Joga Road this morning, and also seeing some action happening on Langata Road. Coming off the Thika Superhighway, getting into the city, just past that Allsops junction, actually beyond that, and then going further ahead, way past Roy Sambu, out towards Githurai, into Thika. This is where traffic is starting this morning, and it's really, really slow. There's a spillover towards the Northern Bypass. We'll keep an eye on that one. Also, we're looking at traffic coming out of Westlands. Skip on over to the Red Hill Link Road. You can use that as an option to get out of the traffic that will likely be this morning. So the expressway is open. A lot of folks will probably be using that this morning to get away from Monday morning traffic. But we're going to keep an eye on things and see how these roads open up. Then that's between the Mombasa Road and then out towards Westlands. Let's keep an eye on that. But it looks like it's going to be a busy morning with the Thika Superhighway doing what it's doing already so early. Coming off Joga Road, then getting into the city at that roundabout at the city stadium. We'll keep an eye on that one as well. Help us out here this morning, folks. What do you see where you are? Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 23 minutes to 7, Kenya's biggest conversation. I want to take you to Kitui County.
Let's go.
In Kitui County, specifically Kilonzo Village in Zambani, Kitui East. Kilonzo Village in Zambani, Kitui East. We find a young girl called Faith Kasungwa, who sat her KCPE just the other day. She was top in her class of 50 pupils. She scored 408 marks. 408 marks from Kilonzo Village, Nzambani, Kitui East. Obviously, with 408 marks, there's no question. National school, straight, direct. Now, the question is it national school from a locality or national school where you have to cross borders and go straight to which part of the country? Luckily for her, it's national school in her locality. Mudale Girls, a national school which is in Kitui County, admitted her to go and join Form 1. They sent her an admission letter. In the admission letter, she is supposed to pay 45,000 shillings, fees, and 20,000 shillings. That's required for shopping, uniform, those things that we were talking about. 45 plus 20, 65,000 shillings. Faith Kasungwa's mother is a domestic worker. She was a house help. She stopped working. Faith Kasungwa's father, Maundu Mwanza, is just a manual worker in Kilonzo Village in Zambani, Kitui East. So, mother not working, father doesn't have much of an income. 65,000 shillings. Where is it going to come from?
Right now, nowhere.
Crickets, right?
Yeah.
So now Faith Kasungwa is just tendering her father's goods. She has not joined Form 1. She remains at home.
Okay.
Other children have gone to school. She has, despite scoring 408 marks.
Man, that is serious.
It's scary. You know why? Because that is just one of the hundreds of thousands, and I'm saying hundreds of thousands.
Stories like this keep popping up every day.
There was a really disturbing video that we saw also over the weekend of parents who are lining up as early as 10 p.m. at night to then receive a bursary in the morning.
Some sleeping on the sidewalk.
Yep.
Most of them sleeping on the sidewalk, covered in cloth, so that in the morning when the bursary office opens at the constituency level,
they'll be there.
Of which you're not even promised or you're not even assured that you will get what you need to send your child to school.
You'll only get 5,000
You get 5,000 shillings.
At
Now
most
look at that number that
10,000
they
shillings. You need 65,000 shillings.
There's a crisis in the country when it comes to education right now. But there's a lot of window dressing that's happening at the same time.
Yep.
That is the issue. Children cannot afford to go to school.
Yep.
And we're not talking about private, swanky, hoity-toity schools. We're talking about public schools in the public education system.
Yep.
That the country's children cannot afford to go to school. And I'm sorry to say that the Ministry of Education is folding its arms, looking at a situation and giving some rules about things that don't matter. You ask only for your children to do well when it comes to their studies.
Yep.
Here's an example of one who has done exceptionally well, given the circumstances under which she has grown up. But she cannot be catered for. And this is a basic right.
Let's contextualize, okay? This is a child from Kilonzo village in Zambani, Kitui East. This child, I bet you, there's no electricity in their house.
Running water.
There's no running water. This is a child who had to come from school every evening to come and do some domestic chores.
For sure, before she starts reading.
When it comes to reading, she has to sit next to the fireplace because that's the only source of light. Or if there's another source of light, it is maybe a koroboi, those lanterns with a wick,
kerosene light
without a glass, or the ones with a glass. Akienda sana. 408 out of 500. She's not able to go to school. We have an MP here, we have a county government here, we have a president who talks about all bursaries and all those things. We have children like this and many who would like to do that 100% transition, blah, 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 but they cannot do it because there's a financial barrier. And we need to address this.
Absolutely. And I'm going to crisis level. It is a crisis.
And we cannot be saying that what we need to have is let's look at increasing CDF for 1 shilling, 1 person, 1 shilling, 1 vote, 1 kilometer. No. Those conversations are not the ones that we should be having. This entire budget for CDF, instead of giving it to MPs, make 100% transition 100% free.
Yeah, absolutely. Make it 100% free. Not this business of saying there's 100% transition. Then you come to school and the school is asking you to bring this whole list of whatever it is that you need to bring. And then they add the fee. Okay, so the government is going to pay for 1, 2, 3. You then need to pay for whatever. How you immediately lock a significant percentage of the children's population out. That even if they woke up very early in the morning, they would not be able to access this thing that we're talking about. Yep. Here is somebody who read probably 4 years. Look, you guys, take all these things into consideration. Somebody who's read by kerosene wick, for example, probably already has health issues, already probably has vision issues, already is compromised then when it comes to her health. And then we are saying, come and bring 65,000. Where is it supposed to come from? And there's no a beg, please, or maybe. She comes, you don't have, you go. The next person we will take. There's a crisis brewing. It's not even brewing. It's about to bubble over. And the Ministry of Education is folding its arms looking at this thing. Parents are sleeping on the side of the road, waiting for 5,000 shillings in the morning, which even as you're sleeping. Imagine this, Eric CT. Even as you're sleeping, this money is not enough. You know that you're just going to go and get what you can so that you can go and beg school to please take that. You go and look for more. You already know as you're sleeping there that this money is not sufficient.
You know what this issue of children who've done well and not being able to actually get to school is doing? It's actually highlighting the plight that we have in the country right now. Why is it that parents are not able to meet the cost of schools? And why is it that the government still seems to think that they can simply mention these figures they keep throwing at parents, 65,000. 65,000!
Even divided by 3. Divided by 3.
School uniform. Okay, uniform plus mattress plus those things, 20,000.
Total, Baba. You do the total.
45,000 shillings is the school fees.
45,000 shillings. Where somebody who doesn't even earn 5,000 shillings a month, where do you think they are going to get 45,000 shillings from?
And is it for the whole year?
No. No.
Exactly. It's for a term.
You know the
and this year is short. How long is a term?
9 months.
Just
a term is 9 weeks.
With 9 weeks time, more.
One. The year ends in November.
But if I'm to be fair and honest, I'm not sure the honest should come before fair or fair should come before honest. But the mandarins at the Ministry of Education probably use a certain matrix for cranking up these numbers based on what they think the actual cost is. But I think we've gone beyond looking at the actual cost. And we ought to be having this discussion about what parents can actually afford. Forget the cost.
Yeah.
This fuel levy money, which we keep using for things which we don't even understand, and since the government has decided to willy-nilly appropriate as you see fit, can they not also appropriate this levy fund to help parents by subsidizing this matter of school education? I think because it requires some
intervention. Serious intervention.
There has to be an intervention.
But let me, I'm just looking at CDF. Okay, so CDF, yes, is devolving and distributing this money all over, right? But how about you just consolidate the entire CDF and add it into the education budget?
Yes.
And say this is taking care of feeding children in school.
Because some of the money that is supposed to be for development in CDF is also duplicated with the monies that the counties get, and even from the national government. You see, I mentioned the fuel levy because it's a nice, touchy spot, and we know it's usually money that's sitting there. Precisely. It is sitting there. And yet you have a crisis. Parents need help. Children need to go to school. So as you're moving around monies, move around some money and make it possible for parents to at least take their children to school.
It's about time this thing ought to be looked at as a right, which it is. That what that means is that it's a right. So you then must do everything within your power to make sure that that right is fulfilled. It is not a matter of come and let us do it together. Come and let us see what you have, and so that we can now activate this thing. No. That you, the custodian of state, whatever it is that you must do to make sure that this right is lived out and fulfilled for these children must be done. So absolutely, make 100% transition 100% free. Make it free.
Yep.
The same way people hobbled and tried to fit into this square when it was that transition where classrooms were filled. See, they figured it out. We'll figure it out.
Let's move.
Move, man.
Yeah.
We cannot be in the same place the whole time.
Let's move. City, at a story that you're looking at.
You know, this thing...
That has caught you, right?
No, it has.
It's a sad story. It's a sad story. The father is now just a hawker in the nearby shopping center. The firstborn in this family is a house help in Kitengela. The secondborn in this family just sat her KCSE. This is the thirdborn who has done KCPE, has scored 408 marks and cannot go to school.
Let me tell you what is going through my mind.
Yes.
As you ask, and why I seemed to have sort of drifted. I'm looking at the headline in the Standard. It's politics, side politics.
Right.
Okay? Then, page 2, what usually is there, some interesting echo from the past.
Yes.
And I thank the editorial of the Standard. Page 3, this matter of the girl is highlighted seriously.
Yes.
Okay? One story.
Yes.
Okay, good. Then we go to page 4, politics. Okay? Page 5, there's an advert to welcome people to the IAP 4th Regional Conference on African and Indian Ocean and EAP Conference. Okay? That one's an advert. Page 6, politics. Page 7, politics. Page 8, politics. Page 9, politics. Then we have
an advert.
Reinsurance Corporation of Kenya advert. Page 12, politics. Page 13, politics. Page 14, politics. Page 15, politics. God.
What is it?
Politics.
What is it?
Is this the most important thing in the country?
Yeah.
No,
we
it
have an
isn't.
election coming up in 2 months.
Actually,
it's about governance.
Actually,
all these things that we are talking about, CT, what are they? What are we talking about? Make 100% transition. Make CDF. Make fuel levy. Who?
Who should
the
do it?
governance.
The stories that I have mentioned here
it.
don't talk about governance. They talk about individuals and their parties, individuals and their parties, who danced where, who got what, who wore which dress, who wore which cap. We are not discussing governance. So when we have members of the public pointing fingers at us and telling us that we, the media, are to blame for some of these problems, they really are absolutely right. And all these conversations that I am seeing in the newspaper, our newspaper, these aren't paid adverts. They are 2 paid adverts. 14 pages of nothing but reports about this politician and that politician. We have serious issues. The issue of drought, the issue of people who don't have food didn't go anywhere.
It's still there.
The issue of young Kenyans who want to go to school has just been added to the problem that we have. And unfortunately, all these stories are dire, they're dismal, and they're depressing.
That's true. And they talk about it.
And I'm saying, can we give at least 2 pages every day to some of the plights of what's happening in this country? Not some corner next to a certain advert or an obituary. Somewhere prominent that when you look at, you can actually see the story. It tells us how seriously we take these matters.
The Nation, page 2, 3, politics.
See?
4, 5, politics. Okay. 6, 7, politics. 8 is politics. 9 is an advert by IEBC. Page 10, transition to junior high remains a headache. Concerns center around content, domiciling, infrastructure, funding and placement.
The Star, page 1, politics. Okay? Page 2, politics. Page 3, interest story. There's a young lady who was killed. It was the Institute of Mass Communication. All right? Page 3, 4. 4, 5, politics. Page 6, politics. Page 7, an advert. That one brings an income. Look, what I'm saying is actually not complicated. All right? We are being irresponsible as the media. We are making the issue of politics so primary to that we are losing the human element of what is ailing the country. It can't be that politicians take center stage when people are dying of hunger, people are dying of disease, children can't go to school. These are important things.
I see what you're saying. I agree with you to a certain extent. I think with the general election coming, where we are going to elect leaders from all levels, either from the county assembly to the county governor to the National Assembly and the Senate and the President, I think it's important that we highlight these matters. However, and this is where I think maybe we are agreeing on this, it's contextualizing. It's not talking about, because Kindiki lost and what happened, how come Kindiki did not appear at yesterday's press conference, how is Raila going to name his deputy, what happens if Kalonzo walks in or walks out. It's contextualizing and saying, all right, so what are the issues? It's setting the agenda. What is it that we ought to be hearing from these political leaders as they talk to us today? Is Rigathi Gachagua a man who shall help William Ruto should they be elected as president and deputy president? Is he a man who's suitable to advance this agenda? What is the agenda? Is it just about getting the Mount Kenya people out to vote? Or is it about addressing the plight of the people within that region and in the entire country? If we were maybe to put that context of this is what's happening.
Eric, you're absolutely right, because the context here also refers to, if you want to highlight these leaders, can you tell us the concrete plans? Not we will bring schools, forget that nonsense. We will give 10 billion, forget that. We have poor people, we have this. This is what we are going to do. Not with what you plan. We already have those plans, by the way. They're already in place. How are you going to ensure that we reduce these problems that we have to the point where they're non-existent? Telling us who did what, who doesn't like what, who danced in what manner, who put his left foot first before the second one. Those are irrelevant. It may be entertainment. We really don't have time for funfair and for fun and games. Right now, with the problems that we are facing and the reality that is before us, you can't.
You can't. It's a tough one. Well, I have forwarded that photo of the newspaper story to Senator of Kitui County and Okwambua. I've also sent it to gubernatorial aspirant for Kitui County under UDA, Jonathan Mweke. I've also sent it to Charity Ngelu's phone. Jonathan Mweke has responded and said, I've seen this, I'll take care of it, I'll get her school fees paid.
Good man.
Yeah, I hope he comes through. You know, there's a politician.
I hope so. I've also sent it to a philanthropist who I know owns a school, which whose purpose is simply to actually help such students. And I've said this particular student needs help.
Needs help.
Yes.
Hope she gets the help that she needs.
Indeed.
And it's important that, that such a story has come out. But such leaders should actually be going around the village and asking who performed how and where are they now. Anyway, I'm sure you have a story to tell us about Saudi Arabia.
Well, I mean, again...
Or is it a different one that you had prepared? Okay.
Yeah, I had prepared a different story, but I think the Saudi Arabia one is just as important, if not more. If we're looking at plight, this young woman, unfortunately, who was butchered to death in Saudi Arabia after having, been in the employ of a couple for a couple of years, and then turns up dead. She had been raped, she had been butchered then thereafter. And she represents, again, the numbers of young Kenyan women and very few men who are going to the place unknown, as it were. Sure, you know the place where you're going, the actual destination, but you don't know what you're going to face there. Too many Kenyans have shown up in boxes coming back to the country.
Yep.
Too many have come back in this state. The employment circumstances, you do not know until you get there.
Yeah.
You do not know the situations within which you do not know the requirements under which you will work, save for what you filled on a form. And I think beyond, because there was a lot of emotion around this story, there is still a lot of emotion around the story. But I think beyond the emotion that obviously this story draws, that there has to be a succinct, conditioned, consistent call for the regularization of this thing. It cannot be that Kenyans are going, because, you go travel, go to the airport in Addis. As folks are leaving Nairobi, going via Addis, going to Jeddah, going to Oman, going to Qatar, going to different places in search of employment. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't go and get jobs. I am saying it ought to be regularized.
We should have a proper...
Know where these women are going. Platform. Let there be a system whereby there is follow-up and there is feedback. Know that person X works in this person's under this person's employ. This is how much they earn. These are the terms of their contract.
Yep.
Are they all right? Have they now answered or shown up at the embassy so that people have a regular check on them? Find any Filipino person who is working on anywhere in this globe.
Their government knows.
Their government knows where they are.
Yep.
Who they are working for, where they are, and everything about them. It needs to be regularized, because
we need to have
this one who showed up like this will not be the last.
It's not the only one. Remember, in fact, there's an editorial in the Standard today. On April 14th, we commented here about the death of Raya Lakech in Saudi Arabia. The 37-year-old had gone to the Middle East country to work so that she could support her mother and 2 children. But she died under questionable circumstances. Her mother collapsed and also died after receiving news of her daughter's death. Many more people are dying. Our own principal secretary in charge of foreign affairs has gone to Parliament and pleaded and said, you know what, guys, Parliament, you need to come up with regulations and laws on how to govern this thing. Well, that is passing the buck. But the fact of the matter is, even the government is aware that there's something that's happening in Saudi Arabia and these other countries that should not be happening.
Your BBC highlighted these issues. And it's not just Kenyan, but women from this continent and elsewhere.
Yeah.
And they liken it to human trafficking. That's really what the story was about.
What it is now.
And slavery.
Yes,
that's what it is.
Precisely.
Enslavement. That's what it is.
This is crazy. Anyway, we will look for the PS for Foreign Affairs. We'll also look for more other people to come and tell us about this. We have a National Employment Authority in this country. Does it only deal with the Kenya, or should it deal with everyone? Anyway, this and more. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. In the next hour, we have a guest in the studio and we'll be introducing her to you. We'll be talking about the plight of, or the place of persons with disabilities in Kenya's politics. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. All eyes will be on Azimio la Umoja, one Kenya coalition party's presidential candidate Raila Odinga, as he is expected to name his running mate today. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has issued a deadline for presidential and gubernatorial candidates to announce their running mates in the run-up to the August 9th general election. Various presidential candidates as well as governors have until midnight to submit the names of their running mates to the IEBC. Sunday, Kenya Kwanza flag bearer William Ruto announced Mathira MP Rigathi Gachagua as his running mate.
My friend, I present to you the Kenya Kwanza running mate candidate, my brother and friend, Rigathi Gachagua.
Meanwhile, despite pressure from leaders in Azimio to have Odinga name his running mate at Kamkunji Stadium in Nairobi, Odinga instead went on to state his plan for the country should he win the August 9th elections.
Hello, nimeangalia hali ya anga na mimi nataka kuambia nyinyi kwamba nitatangaza kule town KCC, nitatangaza sawa sawa saa 5 kule KICC nitatangaza.
Well, tensions is high in Azimio la Umoja, one Kenya coalition party, after Wiper threatened to move to court to seek to withdraw from the political outfit led by attorney Dan Maanzo. Wiper says the agreement agreed upon is illegal and that they want Kalonzo to go all the way to the ballot as president. According to him, Wiper National Executive Committee met Saturday and agreed that Musyoka leaves the coalition.
Azimio Okoh has legal issues. We, as Wiper and its lawyers, are approaching the High Court tomorrow morning, first of all seeking to impeach the agreement of Azimio Okoh, and I believe the court is a court of justice and will guide the political parties correctly, and we are able to prove before court that the current agreement is illegal and is unconstitutional.
In what now raises eyebrows, Maanzo claims that Musyoka's name has already been submitted to the IEBC as a presidential candidate. It is also alleged that Kalonzo may today announce his running mate ahead of the deadline set by the IEBC for presidential and gubernatorial candidates to name their running mates. These, as Azimio spokesperson Professor Makamutua said, Kalonzo's advisors were misleading him. According to him, Kalonzo signed every page of the agreement, meaning that he read the content and accepted it, thus making it difficult for the contract to be broken.
I would say that perhaps my concern for my brother, Mr. Musyoka, is that perhaps some of the folks around him have not given very good advice. If you go and look at the agreement, the various political parties not only signed the agreement at the back end of the agreement, they initialed every page. You initial pages to indicate that you've read the agreement. You know, so it's rather puzzling to me that you would want to exit from an agreement about which just about a month ago you participated in crafting.
Kalonzo has been pushing to be Raila Odinga's running mate. It will be remembered that Kalonzo did not attend Azimio's rally at Kamkunji grounds yesterday, but instead held a meeting with the KANU leader Gideon Moi. This, as it is reported that most of the leaders who participated in the final bid to nominate Ruto's running mate favored Senator Kithure Kindiki instead of Rigathi Gachagua. It is reported that Kindiki won the vote by the leaders of Mount Kenya and Nairobi, who were allowed to participate in the event. In those votes, Kindiki is reported to have received 23 votes against Gachagua's 4. Speaking to KTN News, Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen admitted that Kindiki had defeated Gachagua in the polls but denied that it was with the margin being stated.
I think, honestly, it was almost like a dead end in terms of two of them. They were matching. It's not true that it was 24 versus 4. Kindiki had about 5 or 6 more votes than Gachagua, but it was part of the indicative of the strength of Professor Kindiki as a person who was able to bring these other leaders together. Remember that Professor Kindiki has been majority leader. He understands how to work together with various members of parliament, and his interpersonal skills could have given him an edge, but it was not so much as to worry anybody. Even if you look at the opinion polls, both internal and external, that have been done by ourselves and the ones that have been done by other institutions that have helped us to look at the figures, the difference was 1 or 2 percentage points.
However, speaking on Citizen TV, Gachagua said Deputy President William Ruto not only involved officials but also residents of Mount Kenya, saying he made more than 30 calls. We are following up on developments on this headache of running mate, especially today when Azimio is set to announce its running mate. We'll be bringing you that in our subsequent bulletins. My name is Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, so traffic building up on the Thika Superhighway today. Really heavy traffic that started very early today. We're going all the way past Roysambu today, well into Kiambu County. Inbound traffic is a terrible headache on the Thika Superhighway today. It's bumper to bumper, both lanes coming into the city. Kiambu Road as well, quite some traffic, and we're way past Coffee Gardens at this point. Coming into the city at the Muthaiga Square and then further on from there. But it looks really crazy at this point. Coming off Langata Road, not too bad, not too painful just yet, but it's likely to pick up some as we go towards the 7 o'clock hour. All right, so also looking at traffic on Mombasa Road today, a little bit here and there has picked up. We know that folks are going to be using the expressway today, so let's see how that looks like at the end of the day. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
7 minutes after 7. Good morning. Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, the 16th day of March 2022. We're still in March, but bei ya mafuta inapanda every new month.
Why don't you just fix your mind on 200?
Yeah.
Because it'll head there. Okay? And function as though it costs 200. Then your mind will be at ease. But if you keep thinking of costs that of days gone by, my friend, you'll have cardiac issues. Okay? You'll have unnecessary pressure.
Mafuta 200 and accept and move on.
Yeah, it's going to get to 200. So just accept that and then relax. And say, we're doing the 200. Then let other things fall in place. But this one, it used to be 100.
City? The days proverb tafadhali.
If you tell people to live together, you tell them to quarrel. This is a proverb from Congo Republic.
Brazzaville.
Okay. Yes.
If you tell people to live together,
you tell them to quarrel. If you tell Azimio to bring in many parties together,
you're telling them to quarrel.
And we are seeing it. Go to Kenya Kwanza. You tell many parties, the moment people congregate in groups, differences will come up. And it's these differences and the manifestation of them, thereof, that we normally refer to as a quarrel. When in most cases, it's just a slight disagreement. Or, in political terms, it's a negotiation.
It's just negotiating.
Kabisa.
Okay. Let's have a conversation now about political parties again and the way political parties are promoting the minority groups in the country and the special interest groups in the country. Now, we know that our democracy should be looking at those special interest groups. Number one, so the minority communities, they are those people who are basically called minority communities. If you count them, people who speak that language, find 100, 200, 1,000, 1,300, political parties should have a way of making sure that they recognize them. Persons with disabilities, various kinds of disabilities, how are they promoted in their political parties? When you talk about the youth, those are the majority, but they're a special interest group. So how does the political party promote the affairs of the youth? Gender, How does a political party deal with gender? All these issues. We have these vehicles called political parties, but are they aware that they should be doing things? Now, somebody here will tell us that Jubilee Party does that because she is the national chairperson of the persons with disabilities in the Jubilee Party. Wanja Maina, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante sana. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome back.
Yes.
You've been here before.
Yeah, during Corona, I remember. Yes, but I'm also a very big fan of the show. And to be fair, when it came to the eulogizing and celebrating Kibaki, I couldn't think of a better station that brought very unique voices. I was really impressed, actually. Yeah, you did a good job.
When you just repeat that again?
When it came to eulogizing and celebrating Kibaki, I think Spice Mulifanya a good job. Ngari Gituko, these other people, they really humanized him and brought a very unique. I got to learn more about him, sadly, at his death, but it was really nice. Yes.
Asante.
Welcome.
Wanja, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
So, national chairperson, persons with disabilities, Jubilee Party, what's that?
Basically, first and foremost, as you know, Jubilee Party, as it right now, is the ruling party. And most of political parties in Kenya, there has been a push for them to have special interest groups in their leadership. So you realize that most parties are making leagues. Some of them are calling them caucuses, congresses of special interest groups. For the most part, women, youth, and people with disabilities. So in our party, it's called People with Disabilities League, where now I'm the leader. So to just put it simply, is just to promote the interests of those people who are ordinarily not included or involved in political parties' affairs, dissemination of information, pushing for things. For example, in our party, all the aspirants with disabilities were not paying for nomination fees compared to other people. For example, the women were paying 50%. The youth had a waiver of around 60%. So it's just promoting the welfare and their interest in the general political conversation.
But then, as a party, tell us about Jubilee and how Jubilee has done. Apart from at this point of nomination, where they waived the fees for nomination for persons with disabilities, what else has Jubilee been doing to promote persons with disabilities' voices within the party?
You agree with me that the very nature of political parties is that they are active at certain times, because the whole point really, we are a party democracy. So the whole point of political parties really is getting into government, into leadership. So maybe the question could be, now that we got into leadership between 2017 and now, what have we done? And maybe moving forward, how does the future look like? But as it were now, political parties are mostly active during certain periods of time. You understand the electoral cycle. So there has been now maybe at the top of my head really what the party has done in our party leader, for example. There has been very significant utterances or pronouncements by the president. You remember in December 2021, he was actually the first president to attend the International Disability Day, and he talked about data. He talked about having a very good database. He talked about synchronizing data of people with disabilities in Kenya. We saw him appointing 2 judges. You remember the day there were 34 judges and then 6, whatever happened to them. 2 of them were people with disabilities. You remember Mumbi and that other guy whose name I forget. We have a permanent secretary. Her name is Josephta. But obviously now those could be high level, but they are very good announcements just to enforce and to reaffirm capabilities of people with disabilities. But even at the local level, we are seeing a lot of involvement in boards, a lot of aspirations. For example, in public sector, they say that part of the performance indicators is actually how many people with disabilities you employ. So there has been a number of efforts. Certainly, we could do more, but at least we are trying. Yeah.
You know, this discussion about making or ensuring that there's affirmative action that includes wholesomely people with disabilities into either not just mainstream politics, but mainstream government, mainstream political space. It reminds one of the battle we've had with the 2/3 gender rule. Because the fact that somebody has a disability does not mean that they are not able to perform or to undertake the tasks that may be required with whatever task that is at hand. It does not mean that they would not make a good leader. It does not mean that they would not make a good public servant. It doesn't. But there is the stigma that we as a society have with disability, beginning right from where we come from. How would you say that the organization that you head has made strides in helping people understand, accommodate, and live with disability as positively as they possibly can?
I think that's
not people with disability, those who don't have disability, acknowledging and accepting. Yes.
I think that's a very beautiful question, and I would say that it's some of these issues are also very much out of cultural extractions. So you find that different communities perceive some of the people with disabilities differently. For example, in sub-Saharan Africa, I think we are part of sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes.
Only 1% of women and girls with disabilities are literate. So basically it means if you put 100 here, only one is able to do numerics and to read and write. When it comes to men, it's at 3%. What does that mean? That means that some people potential will never be realized because they were disadvantaged from the very beginning, which is denying people an education. So then what does that mean? That means that the problem, it is severe, it is so bad, because remember we're in 2022, people are going digital, people are homeschooling, people are using technology, but there's a person who is an adult now who cannot read or write their name, leave alone other people's names, their own names. So I think when we look at it that way, we just see the grave situation of just how much discrimination and being denied a chance from the very beginning does to you. And it is now a reflection of you'll never get good jobs.
True.
You'll never be able to achieve even social empowerment, leave alone political empowerment. So if to say that we can be able to solve that problem as a person who is heading a league of people with disabilities, I would say that it's such a big problem because it's starting from the cradle, from the very beginning, you're denied a chance. That said, recently I attended a meeting by an NGO called Crown. They had done a research, and one of the findings was that 0.0 the political participation of people with disabilities in Kenya is at 0.0015. 0.0015. That's almost
number.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So if you look at it that way, you see that we have a very long way to go. But then at the same time, the situation is not very bad because in our party, for the first time, we had the highest number of aspirants with disabilities. In Nairobi, for example, in Umoja 1 ward, one of the aspirant is a person with a disability, and he's one of the people who are we know that they are going to win. If you look at a place like Masi,
we know that they're going to win.
They are so strong.
Okay.
And
they're popular.
They are so popular that it's almost, obviously with politics, optimism is one of the things. So we are just somewhere like in Masi, in Nyandarua, we have a candidate. So we are also seeing that while the numbers are not as impressive as we'd hope for, we also have people who said we want to be voted for as well. Obviously, not many made it, but we also now have aspirants.
Sure.
So,
Wanja, even as you talk about this, I mean, I think this is probably one of the things that would move change. And hear me out here. The reasons as to why people do not send their children with disabilities to school are very many. There's the whole stigma. There's the traditional and cultural belief. There's the fear that these children have been bewitched or whatever. There's the
logistics as well.
There's the logistics. You will not send this child to school where other children go. There are many, many reasons. Without the realization that something is possible, there's also the financial constraint and burden that is upon many parents to send children with disability to a special school kind of thing, if that was necessary. And there's also the lack of knowledge and understanding that, these kids would do just as well as anybody else if given an opportunity. So essentially what we are saying here is that the minuscule number then of those living with disabilities that are literate, that as you've talked about now, then need to be given an opportunity in mainstream leadership to then highlight some of these things. Because without that, those numbers will remain dismal. So are we essentially saying this is a different kind of demographic, Wanja? Am I hearing you say it's a different demographic because we're not talking about populist politics here. We are talking about need-driven and need-based politics, whereby we're saying put people in these positions where they can influence decisions for the future, because you have a whole population of people who are wasting away because they have not been given an opportunity. Is that where we're going?
Yeah, I think that's where we're going, and I even love that description, need-based politics. So rest assured, I'll use it more and more when I'm doing my. So you remember when I was here, maybe for those maybe who listened, when we were talking about Corona, there were some counties that had denied some of the people with disabilities opportunities to serve in the county assembly.
Right.
That in itself, that Corona situation in itself brought forward the disadvantage of not having people with disabilities in the table and in the tables of decision making, because if they were there, maybe to get resources, to get consumables and commodities would have been easier, because their voices would have been relevant in the county committees and what have you. But the way you've described the challenges, bullying, financial constraints, in fact, it reinforces the fact that we still need more people in political discourses, because people always think that to be in politics is maybe in the county assembly or in the Senate, but also to be part of the process. For example, in my political party, the political direction that our party leader has given us is to support Raila. It's out there. When we had a special meeting with Raila, and I remember we just talked about his 10-point agenda, and we tried to sort of tailor-make them to our needs. One of our submissions was educators for free. That means, because you see, right now people are setting agendas, people are setting manifestos, people are listening to people. So when I consulted with my people and we had a special meeting with him, we told him free education up to the highest level, of which the highest level is like university or tertiary institutions. Those issues we've raised, like bullying, financial constraints, they are real. And we also know now, when we get political a bit, you remember when we were having those discussions of 1 shilling, 1 man, one woman, 1 wife. I remember there were discussions around some kids are more disadvantaged than others. For example, there is my friend, when I was at University of Nairobi, was being paid for his master's by one of his counties. From
an entire county government sponsoring.
Yes, he was doing economics, I remember. And it is also a fact that a child in Ruiro who has a disability, if they are given a bursary, it will be a big miracle if it's 5,000. So then it tells us that we still need to be in the mainstream conversations, so that when people are talking about 1 shilling, one school fees, it is also a reflection of what that child in Ruiro will get vis-a-vis the other child, because of their population, because of their disadvantages. So whichever way we look at it, the involvement of people with disabilities in discourses, in setting up manifestos, in making sure that their political commitments and accountability around these issues is an advantage for us. Remember, these are people, as you've said, the society, the barriers, the society, and one of the barriers is actually attitude. How you said a person can be able to do anything they are able to do. But you see, the perception, perception is reality. These people are so incapable. They are angry all the time. There are so many barriers that come. It's like a perception barrier that is actually,
that hinders people from giving you opportunity, because there is already how they are viewing you.
Yes, and it's reflected everywhere. So really much. And I remember, speaking of education, which I'm very passionate about, there was a time I was doing some work with another NGO, and one of the reasons why there is actually a correlation between education and nutrition. So some of the kids were refusing to take porridge and tea because the toilet is funny. So they didn't want to tell their friend to keep taking them all the time. So we are also seeing now the very need for people with disabilities everywhere. For example, CDF does a lot of work around construction of schools. If you have a very strong person in the CDF committee, they will have 2 toilets that are accessible, resembles accessibility, so that child will not refuse to take tea because they feel like peeing and their friends will be tired with them. So there are a lot of the being in the tables of decision making everywhere is good for everyone. Yeah.
You see, that issue of being at the table for decision making is actually guaranteed in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights. Article 54 of Kenya's Constitution 2010, persons with disabilities, 54.2 says, the state shall ensure the progressive implementation of the principle that at least 5% of the members of the public in elective and appointive bodies are persons with disabilities. So we talk about two-thirds, we assume that that's the only requirement. There's at least 5% of people in all elective positions should be persons with disabilities. 5% in appointive positions should be persons with disabilities. Of course, there's the use of the word progressive, and that's what the state could, we are doing it progressively. What basically it means is that the next parliament should have 15 out of the 290 elected members of parliament
should be
being
people
persons
with
with
disabilities.
2 out of 47 senators, 2 out of 47 women rep, 2 out of 47 governors, persons with disability. At least 75 MCAs nationally should be persons with disability. Now, we talk about progressive. But if you look even at our current parliament, of the 15, which is the desired number to start with, how likely are we to get 5?
There in the Constitution somewhere, I've forgotten where, they also say that at least male and female to be nominated in the county assemblies. So if we comply with that, 47 times 2 is 94. So at least we'll have headed somewhere.
Yeah.
But also now, because we are trying very much, we're also saying we are able to vote and to be voted for. So we are also working with the assumption that there will be more that will be voted in to sort of complement that number. I also saw a very interesting scenario when we were doing the political party nominations, as it were. I also noticed that some people do not disclose that they have a disability. So I was just looking. One day I was just at Jubilee House and I was seeing some people, and just the way you can see they have a disability. So, but when I look at the records of the aspirants, some of them are not disclosing, probably for fear of being discriminated by virtue of maybe having a disability. So that's also another debate.
Yes.
But you've talked about the law, Article 54 and Article 55. Maybe you can also talk about the intersectionality, where we are also saying, even though a person has a disability, they are also a woman. So we are also now trying to create scenarios where we are saying, see, there is that to that gender role.
Yeah.
Part of that to gender role, I remember we were having some political discussions and they were talking about zebra, man, woman.
Yep.
And as we said, we want rainbow. Woman from the rural area, woman from the marginalized community, woman with a disability, woman from Nairobi, woman from Kibera, woman from Westlands. Where now we are also seeing some sort of a rainbow in terms of the women, because we can, it can be a woman who is a youth.
It's represented
So there's demographic within the demographic within the demographic.
That is it.
So it keeps changing.
Yes.
So I'm hearing you saying that we need to be deliberate to the detail in terms of exactly who then, because who are you taking into consideration? If you just say person with disability, then are you taking into consideration the woman who also needs to be recognized? And then, so we need to be intentional in all of this. And I think one of the ways in which that happens is that it has to be an in-your-face conversation. It cannot be something that you talk about on Tuesday and then forget about until the second Tuesday in June kind of thing. Because, and I think if you look at the gender discussion up until now, what has it been? It's been constant drumming of the same message, that there needs to be inclusion. Because, I mean, and just being bold and forthright in this one, listening to you and listening to the way in which you speak, nobody is going to guess. Nobody's even going to think that you're somebody living with a disability, right? 2, the in many cases, misconception in our minds that whether somebody is able, based on, whatever inhibits you physically, then also is something that needs to be removed from the minds of many people. And it only can be done if the conversation continues. And I dare say, yes, if people are then allowed to be put in these positions of mainstream leadership. Otherwise, the conversation will not be made center stage.
Yes, mainstream leadership, and also mainstream billboards, mainstream advertisements on your face everywhere, mainstream promotion of product, mainstream promotion of media. So those kind of, but also just to just talk about the Article 54. I remember there's a time we had called Mother Karua together with my friends, young women. We were just talking to her and she told us, if you're a minority, a special interest group, you have to be vigilant. So whereas Article 54 is a big assurance, people who want to take away resources from others can feign ignorance. They can just decide to take. I'm not talking about theft. So every day you have to be vigilant.
It is theft.
It's theft. It's theft. You have to be vigilant. But also I'm liking the legislation which is complementing this. For example, recently, remember the political parties 2011, and then it was amended this 2022. One of the things, and I'm actually loving ORPP because she's our ally. I don't know if it's by default or by design, or she's just helping us. One of the things that we saw in that amendment is that 15% of the political party funds allocation will be based on the number of special interest groups in the leadership. And also she is making it a compliance issue to have special interest groups in the leadership of political parties. That in itself is complementing what the Constitution is saying, because she's saying, you bring me your list, but make sure
you're complying with all these things.
You're complying. So
Let's take a break. It's 29 minutes to 8, Kenya's biggest conversation. Wanja Maina is the national chairperson of the Persons with Disability League within Jubilee Party. We are talking about the place of persons with disabilities in political parties and what political parties are doing to promote the affairs of persons with disabilities. Good morning. We'll continue the conversation after we take a look at the weather and traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Madare, presidential tour. And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the enemies says, kuna jina kama yangu.
Cloudy conditions and a bit of a drizzle in Nairobi at 17, highs of 25 and lows of 16. At 14, it's sunny in Nakuru, highs of 25 and lows of 13. Light rain in Nyeri continues at 15, highs of 23 and lows of 14. And the sun is out in Eldoret at 14. We'll see highs of 26 today. Mostly sunny conditions at 25 in Mombasa now, at highs of 31. We'll see through Monday. 30 will be the high in a rainy Malindi, currently at 25. It's sunny in Kisumu at 20. We'll see highs of 29 today and coming down to lows of 19. While at 18 degrees, it's mostly sunny in Kakamega, highs of 28 and lows of 16. Rain showers in Kampala at 20, going to highs of 27. We'll see highs of 31 in a mostly sunny Dar es Salaam at 23. Mostly clear conditions in Lagos at 26, highs of 33. And at 8 degrees, Johannesburg is clear, see highs of 18 and lows of 7. Partly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa at 23. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 33.
Spice up your life.
All right, traffic still really heavy on the Thika Superhighway today. Not quite sure what's causing that, but it is really, really heavy today and well past Githurai today and well into Kiambu County. Traffic continues on the Kiambu Road as well. We were past Coffee Gardens a few minutes ago and it looks like it's moving further ahead, but we'll keep an eye on that. Well, indeed it is. Way past then Tara Road heading out towards Ridgeways. So that traffic continues there this morning. Keep your wits about on the Thika Superhighway. You'll get there soon enough. Outer Ring is an option to get back into the city the long way, and it doesn't look too bad outbound. On Jogo Road, traffic still continues as well. Let's look at Outer Ring, which connects everything. Kangunda Road, Juja Road, Manyanja Road, and some traffic there still continues. Coming off Mombasa Road doesn't look too bad this morning as you get to the SGR, then out towards Cabanas, and then on to, this place is called what? General Motors. Doesn't look too bad. Let's keep an eye on things. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to SpiceFM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
We continue the conversation. CT Muga, Ndu Okoh, Eric Latiff, and our guest, Wanja Maina, the national chairperson of the Persons with Disabilities League within Jubilee Party, the place of persons with disabilities in political parties. So with all those things that we see, guaranteed rights in the Constitution for persons with disabilities in positions of leadership, Wanja, with the various pieces of legislation, just like you reminded us, the Political Parties Act, which now says we shall recognize a political party that promotes persons with disabilities by even how they receive the share of the political party's fund and all. You're in Jubilee, okay? So if I just want to start with the 5% of elective positions, do we have at least 5% of the persons that Jubilee has presented to the IEBC in their nomination list being persons with disability? Remember that requirement for the 2/3? There was the issue of compliance with that because of a court order. This one, there's no court order. But does Jubilee have it within themselves to know that there's a 5% at least?
Do they need a court order to actually adhere to the dictates of the Constitution?
Yeah, actually, speaking of the 2/3 also, there was also another court order to say that the political parties are also not bound to present a the that is compliant to the 2/3. You remember the time IBC had, anyhow, maybe the issue of compliance of the 5%, it can start from the beginning of compliance of the people who are aspirants. For as long as you've disseminated the information, these are the deadlines, the timelines. You can only work with the people who want to be aspirants.
Yes.
Understandably so, because when we look at the place of people with disabilities in terms of empowerment, in terms of that hierarchy, political empowerment is sort of at the top after you've been empowered with information, socially access to information. While I might not have the figure at the top of my head, I'm very sure that we didn't have a lot of aspirants who have disabilities. And this could be many things. Not many aspired for the political. In fact, I actually realized that different people there's a day someone told me that they are called ghost aspirants. There are different people who aspire for different reasons. For example, there were people who were angling for the BBI it might come through, and BBI had said that the people who will be considered are the best losers. So some people had aspired to the extent that BBI will come through and then they'll get
They'll be picked as best losers.
Yeah, so they'll be picked as the best losers. So there were different people who were aspiring. There are people who participated in the negotiated democracy and they got a soft landing. Maybe not the MCA, but or the MP, but they were, there were different give and takes in terms of the negotiations. So are we at the 5%? Are we at the 5%? Really, no.
What has Jubilee been doing in the last 5 years to promote this? To identify, encourage, and promote persons with disabilities to come forward and seek elective positions? Has Jubilee been running those programs across the country and saying, okay, we've identified these are the people with disability. This is who they are. We've sensitized them. We've given them political awareness on what their rights are. And that's saying directly, we are looking forward to supporting you in your quest to be a leader, a political leader. It's an expectation of a political party.
Is an expectation of a political party correct? I think doing that could be directly or indirectly. I think the directly really could be some of these pronouncements, as I said, by this, when it comes to issues of politics, I realize the power of the party leader or the figurehead of the party. The party also nominated MCAs and senators, Maura and this other guy, to parliament. Obviously, the issue of jobs. But I also realize that when it comes to the political, to be able to vie and to present yourself as a leader, it takes a lot of empowerment from other stakeholders. I'm talking about non-governmentals. I'm talking about those community places where people say this person is our leader. So maybe we might not put it as, now today we are here to encourage all of you to vote for a disabled person, but there has been attempt and there has been programs, But then again, I appreciate that we have a long way to go.
I'll give you an example. For example, City, before you come in, you've just told us about how you have had meetings with Martha Karua, the party leader of NARC Kenya. NARC Kenya has been all out there deliberately seeking out these special interest groups. Sitting down with, for example, persons with disabilities, sitting down with women groups, and Martha Karua herself saying, guys, I have been in the trenches, I'm on my way out, and I need more people to come in. So if you look at Martha Karua's, NARC Kenya's list of leadership, you see very many women and young women. That's deliberate. Jubilee.
Well, maybe just to clarify, we didn't meet with her as the leader of NARC Kenya. We met with her as just a woman leader in our many programs. But I would say that we've also been having a lot of programs and projects and a lot of partnerships as well. In fact, the other day I realized we are not doing that badly when I invited, the way those development partners, they call, we want this number of people, we are going to learn about this. In fact, we've had a very elaborate program with a partner called Westminster, where people it has been even over 2 years and everybody is very fine-tuned. I remember one of the guys telling me, now we've learned more about IEBC and compliance issues and other issues. Now we want, they are already very much aware about the electoral timelines, the laws and what have you. Have we been doing that? Yes. But then again, just to repeat and say that the numbers are not as impressive as we'd like. You also realize that not political empowerment is a whole, is just at the top. So you have to make sure you've been able to get the people. In fact, sometimes when there are opportunities, to just reinforce how much people are at the margins of society. Sometimes you share an opportunity. Hey, there's this nini, send your name. And then some of the members will ask, even us with disabilities, we can send our details. Whereas the opportunity is open for all, they still feel like we are still somewhere at the back. So it's a journey in a way, I think, as the Constitution talks about progressive, just to get people out of their shell. So yes, that is really how I can put it.
In fact, Wanja has actually asked the question that I wanted to ask inadvertently, because it appears to me that the people with disability seem to behave as though the disability equals inability. So they stigmatize themselves, they self-censure. So opportunities that they could very easily not only vie for but also attain, they are the greatest hindrance to their own progress as opposed to other people. You see, I look at the way the discussion around women leaders has been in this country and the two-third gender rule. If women didn't take affirmative action to its very nth and deliberately focus and push the agenda, it wouldn't have moved. It wouldn't have gone anywhere. Women would still be in the backwater somewhere being referred to as probably third, fourth class citizens of the country. But they have made the agenda so important that you have no choice but to take notice of it.
You take them seriously. So, I mean, even as you ask that question, sorry,
no, go ahead.
Respond?
Go ahead.
Then it also then does appear that those who, and it could be maybe one of the laws of nature, that those who then are recognized or then are appointed or then are elected, then are the loudest, isn't it? Or those are the ones who've come out at the top, really then pushing the agenda. And then the responsibility then lies on their shoulders to lift up the rest of it. Do you find that also is the case here? It's the Wanja here today, it's the karaoke tomorrow, it's anybody else who's leading the movement is the one then that's likely to be recognized because your voice is heard the loudest. Does it then give opportunity to those who may not be heard and who have a potential of doing well?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think in most leadership, even leadership in Kenya, really, it has some sort of celebrityhood. I'm the most popular, what have you. But I don't think that's a quality of a good leader. Because ideally, and you've said, are there people who are good leaders but they are not heard? It's like how some people, which I don't think is a very good phrase, they usually say, me, I'm the voice of the voiceless. So the question is, are there people who are voiceless or they are just deliberately unheard? So I think one of the qualities of a good leader, and also I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm also saying, like, for myself, I'm quite consultative, and then people are leaders in their own counties. So now we work this way around. No, I don't want to say bottoms up, but we work, with the others. So that is for people who deliberately silence others so that they can be popular. I don't think that's a quality of a good leader. But just to come to what City has asked, they are the greatest hindrances to themselves. When I came to SpiceFM around, I think 1 year ago or something, I gave the analogy of that chicken that is usually there, and then it travels from Mombasa to Nairobi, tied in the legs. When you go to the village, people who go to the village, they go with little, but they come with much from the parents. So anyway, so when you're given like a chicken and you've tied it so much, when you come to Nairobi and you untied in the legs, it still will not move. Until now, you take it like this, you lift it up and down, you scare it a bit, and then it starts moving. So to say
been
that
in that state for long,
for
so
so
it needs
long,
to be gingered up a bit.
Yes,
it thinks it's still in captivity.
Yeah.
That is it. It's like so to say that they are the greatest hindrances to themselves is actually to blame a person who has already been victimized. We are looking at people who have come from very unique and harsh circumstances in their family. Sometimes you hear stories of other people. Oh, my father said, in my family we don't have people who look like this. So these are people who are dealing with a lot of external hit and nini. But that said, I think barriers, and people with disabilities have all said, we are not the problem is the barrier. So maybe if we focus from the person and we look at the barriers, what are the barriers to political participation? One of the ones that we identified in our party was just finances. So we said, you will not pay. Whether you are vying for governor, woman rep, you will not pay. So while the governor was paying 500K, no, for us, no one was paying. And if you look at it now in the long term, the person who has attempted to vie is a person who needs more empowerment, so that even though they don't make it in 2022, this is a person with potential for 2027. So yes, the issue it is always better when you focus on the barriers that are impeding achievement of people with disabilities. We are looking at built environment other than the person, because these are people who just found themselves here, and the challenges are everywhere, including denied opportunities to get jobs here.
Sure. I have a question. I mean, it may prick a little bit, but then is there the expectation that those who would be accepting of you or those who would vote for you should always be sympathetic and or empathetic to your situation? Or is there a point whereby you would have been integrated into the system, as it were, enough until people don't have to say, well, we got to give them a chance. We got to give this person a chance. Do you always expect that there will be that look upon, like, come on, guys, we have to give them a chance because, they've not had a fair shot at things? Or will it get to the point whereby it is so well saturated that nobody needs to be empathetic or sympathetic towards you.
That's the aspirational future. We aspire that to be the future. But just to pinpoint someone like Tim Wanyonyi in I think 1 month ago, where he was one of the biggest negotiators. I want to be governor. They had a boardroom, and we know the outcome. I think Tim Wanyonyi is a very perfect example of just a person who is politically empowered, because he's vying for the 3rd term. We have, for example, one of the ladies, I think her name is Danita.
Danita Gatti.
Danita Gatti. She got the ticket to aspire in, I don't know, Migori or Homa Bay. Migori.
She was a women rep before, then she had an accident.
Yes, and then she was nominated, and now she has gotten the ticket. Anyway, just to put it this way, in the ideal world, everybody wants to be seen by their potential and what they can be able to achieve. But until we get there, we just have to keep pushing. Because if someone gives me a vote, I don't know what inspired them to give me the vote. In fact, we've also seen people, like, for example, we've seen a person being given because they are a widow. How people
they're the widow of the immediate former.
So how people...
But you know, Wanja,
yeah,
I am saying you're not pushing enough. The person, the wearer of the shoe, is the one who knows where it pinches. If people with disability don't highlight their normalcy and don't highlight and don't, again, an in-your-face approach where you are not going to run away from it and you're not going to be allowed to keep living with the misinformation and the myths that you've lived with all this time, and you're being told, excuse me, remove that from your mind, okay? The fact that I have this disability just means I have that disability. It's like if you're tall, it doesn't mean there's anything else. You're just tall.
Yep.
Okay? It doesn't mean you're clever. It doesn't mean you're better than anybody else. You're just tall. Okay? If those disabilities don't push the agenda, nobody else will. You have to push that agenda to the point where people say, folks, we need to take it. You need to pay attention.
We need to pay
I
attention.
give the example of women because that's what they have done.
Yep.
They have not given the male leadership breathing space. And by so doing, they're actually showing they have ability.
Yeah.
You can. And you see, and by so doing, they're defying the narrative that has been there constantly. Now, with disability, most of the narratives are silent. People don't talk about them because you don't want to be seen as though you're picking on these people with disability. But it's there. It's like this silent tribalism where every community has this negative thing they say about the others. But in public, we're all Kenyans. But at the back of their minds, like in Yawa. See, those are the things that you must fight and get rid of. Because you don't want people to pity you. Forget that nonsense. The best they can do is empathize. But not sympathize. No. Instead of sympathy, there ought to be concrete plans that are there to ensure that the abilities you have are brought to the fore to enable you to do what you can actually do. But in the case of most people with disabilities, that thing doesn't even see the light of day. It can't be done for you. You have to do it yourselves. Remember, for the longest time, there was this Kenya school for the disabled in Thika. It was the best known one. But over time, private institutions, public, we have more than 50 schools, special schools. It tells you the need has been recognized and it's no longer something that people keep hidden and locked up. Now, the opportunity is actually there. And this election, you, for instance, as chairman,
chairwoman.
So please forgive me for my male chauvinism.
Chairperson.
As chairperson.
Chairperson, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If Jubilee does not nominate you, then all these things about talking about gender parity,
it's nonsense.
It's utter nonsense. You can't be chairman of say an important and then you're not nominated for no less than senator. Forget the MCA.
But let me ask, even before we get to the nomination,
yes,
did you seek an elective seat in this election?
Thank you very much. Yes, I did seek for an elective seat in Mathare constituency.
Okay.
But we participated in party primaries, stroke negotiated democracies, stroke discussion.
Yes.
And there was a better candidate, and I was happy with a person who emerged.
So Bahati was better?
In terms of some
No.
criterions.
Let's just put this.
Yes.
Bahati is the one who got the Jubilee ticket.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
After first he was given, it was withdrawn, it was reinstated.
Yeah.
So Bahati, who has no history working in the political party structures, versus a Wanja, who is a leader within the hierarchy of the political party.
And a voice too.
Was better. And you want to tell me that Jubilee is actually working hard on the plight of persons with disabilities?
Well, I would say I presented my candidature as a candidate, really. I did present myself as a candidate of people with disabilities. But even that said, I still, based on some scenarios that maybe we cannot get to here, I still felt that the task at hand of organizing, mainstreaming our league was also an important task. And, with a negotiated democracy, sometimes there's a soft landing. Probably there's give, there's take, there's discussions. So personally, I was happy with the outcome.
Okay.
Yes.
Where?
I am not happy with the outcome.
Okay.
So if you're happy, it is good. I am not happy with that particular outcome.
Yeah.
Where should the focus be, Wanja? Because, look at other areas. Looking at the gender card, the focus then was on political parties to set up mechanisms that ensured that there would be this balance, right? So where should the focus be for people living with disabilities? Because, again, going back to that thing that we are saying, that we are shutting out a significant amount, or rather a significant percentage of the population by not taking into consideration what people with disabilities then can do beyond championing their own rights. Because I think maybe there could be a misconception here that if you put people of disability in positions of leadership and governance, all they're doing is championing the rights of other people with disabilities. And I think we can go beyond that. I think it ought to be beyond that. That there is a significant contribution that they can make towards governance and leadership. So we have a whole picture. But where should the focus be to make sure that that collective contribution then is being made, as we have seen with the political parties being made to focus on the gender agenda?
The other day we were speaking with my friends and they said, is disability a leadership quality? And then we sort of generally agreed that the way we say women are encouraged to apply is more or less of saying even people who ordinarily don't get jobs, you come, but when you get here, you'll do the job. So if you're in a media house, the job is talking to the mic. So it's just saying you're encouraged to apply because ordinarily, based on barriers and based on... you wouldn't consider yourself a candidate. However, people who have disabilities, as you've said, they can be able to work in other areas, economics. People, actually, back in the day, all people with disabilities who qualified to go to university were forced, I quote, to go to KU and study special education. So it took a lot of pushback for people to say, no, me, I don't want to do education. Because even me, like, I remember when I was young, you've talked about that school in Thika, that's where I went to school. Generally, the aspiration was to be a teacher. And then, for me, I don't, of all the things, I don't think I can be a good teacher. So now you realize, now people start saying, oh, me, I want to be a lawyer, me, I want to do economics.
One of the pitfalls of, for instance, the people with disabilities whom I came across in university was the braille. When people are taking notes and writing, that braille is noisy. Okay? So people who had visual disabilities had to have readers and they had to volunteer. Now, I know I was a reader for some of my colleagues, so I know what the task was. But you see, this is the whole point. People made breakthroughs and forged and became, should we say, luminaries in their field with that disability. That was a long time ago. Okay? 1981 is when I graduated with my first degree. All right? Now, what I'm trying to say is, it is many years since 1981. So the conversation that was being held in 1981 can't be held now.
No. We can't be at the same spot.
We
must be moving.
But we are still at 1%. So
probably that percentage is too low.
We need more.
Yeah, but the education outcomes, the people with disabilities who are educated, as I said, it's 1%. That's what the research is saying. So probably you're thinking about that friend because you interacted with them in class, and maybe they were just maybe they were the only people in university then.
Actually, no. In my year, there were around 4. There were 4 to be precise.
Those were the only 4.
Yes,
They were the only
they were
four.
the only 4.
That's what Wanja could be saying.
That's saying they are still very
But
small.
they were not the only 4 in their age group.
No, they are not.
It was probably
Not
the only
anymore.
4 in the whole country.
Yeah,
probably.
But thank you very
So
much,
that tells
Wanja.
you that the number is still very minimal. But you said, where should the focus be on? I think media. Media is a good ally. Media has been bringing a lot of programs. I've even seen media giving opportunities to aspirants, still a good thing. Removal of barriers, subconscious barriers. A lot of our political parties, this is in wholesale in the whole country, ensuring that they have disability leagues that are functional throughout the 5 years. And most importantly, everybody to change their attitude there.
Well, now you're in the leadership of a political party.
Yeah.
We'll hold you accountable for that.
Asante.
Thank you very much for joining us. Keep it here for more conversations in the next hour, IEBC. It's 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire Dennis Oseto. All eyes will be on Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party's presidential candidate Raila Odinga as he is expected to name his running mate today. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has issued a deadline for presidential and gubernatorial candidates to announce their running mates in the run-up to the August 9th general election. Various presidential candidates as well as governors have until midnight to submit the names of their running mates to the IEBC Sunday. Kenya Kwanza flag bearer William Ruto announced Mathira MP Rigathi Gachagua as his running mate. Meanwhile, despite pressure from leaders in Azimio to have Odinga name his running mate at Kamkunji's time in Nairobi, Odinga instead went on to state his plan for the country should he win the August 9th elections. Now, tension is high in Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party after Wiper threatened to move to court to seek to withdraw from the political outfit led by attorney Dan Mazo. Wiper says the agreement agreed upon is illegal and that they want Kalonzo to go all the way to the ballot as president. According to him, Wiper National Executive Committee met Saturday and agreed that Musyoka leads the coalition.
Azimio Okoh has legal issues. We, as Wiper and its lawyers, are approaching the High Court tomorrow morning, first of all seeking to impeach the agreement of Azimio Okoh. And I believe the court is a court of justice and will guide the political parties correctly. And we are able to prove before court that the current agreement is illegal and is unconstitutional.
In what now raises eyebrows, Manzo claims that Musyoka's name has already been submitted to the IEBC as a presidential candidate. It is also alleged that Kalonzo may today announce his running mate ahead of the deadline set by the IEBC for presidential and gubernatorial candidates to name their running mates. This is Azimio spokesperson Professor Mekam Mutua told KTN News that Kalonzo's advisors are misleading him. According to him, Kalonzo signed every page of the agreement, meaning that he read the content and accepted it, thus making it difficult to withdraw from the contract.
I would say that perhaps my concern for my brother, Mr. Musyoka, is that perhaps some of the folks around him have not given him very good advice. If you go and look at the agreement, the various political parties not only signed the agreement at the back end of the agreement, they initialed every page. You initial pages to indicate that you've read the agreement. So it's rather puzzling to me that you would want to exit from an agreement about which just about a month ago you participated in crafting.
Meanwhile, Kalonzo Musyoka has called for a meeting today at 11 a.m. at the Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka Command Center in Nairobi, where an extremely important announcement will be made. This is according to Robert Mbui, Kathiani MP, who is also the Wiper National Organizing Secretary. And Tharaka Nithi Senator Kithure Kindiki is today expected to announce his next political move after missing out on being Deputy President William Ruto's running mate. At the announcement yesterday, Ruto acknowledged that Kindiki had a good chance of becoming his running mate before the decision to elect Rigathi Gachagua was arrived at. Kindiki's absence from the meeting raises questions the Deputy President William Ruto tried to respond to. It is reported that Kindiki left after realizing he had missed the opportunity. On his Facebook page, he wrote, and I quote, I am extremely grateful to all those who supported and vouched for me to be nominated the UDA and Kenya Kwanza deputy presidential candidate in the elections scheduled for 9th of August 2022 following the decision taken by his party and coalition regarding the matter. He will make his official statement in public today. God bless Kenya and thank you. That was his statement. Now we will be following up on these developments and bring you the latest. Now, the civil society has urged the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission to bar aspirants with integrity issues from vying in August. In a joint civil society organization statement on the state of electoral preparedness, Transparency International Executive Director Sheila Masinda said aspirants who have been implicated in criminal activities or have criminal cases pending in the courts, those who have been impeached from public office or directed by the courts to stay away from office until their cases are heard and determined should not appear on the August ballot papers. Further, the organization have expressed concern on the unregulated use of money in the forthcoming elections, saying it is likely to promote electoral malpractices like voter bribery, encourage the use of illicit money, and distort the fundamental principles of democracy. And Somalia has handed Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud the presidency for a second time following yesterday's long overdue election in the troubled Horn of African nation, which is confronting an Islamist insurgency and the threat of famine. This is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 SpiceFM Kisumu.
At a few minutes after 8 o'clock, traffic is still picking up in most parts of the city this morning. We're looking at it really busy on the Thika Superhighway today. Not quite sure what's causing this crazy traffic situation, but we're well into Kiambu County coming off the Thika Superhighway, and we're looking at traffic spilling over well past Ridgeways, coming out towards Muthaiga Square on Kiambu Road. All right, let's take a look at what's happening on Limuru Road this morning. Traffic moving really, really slowly, getting past United Nations Avenue, well into the belly of Muthaiga, and then coming out towards Limuru Road and then connecting with Wangari Maathai Way. So that is really busy today as well. Looking into Westlands, Ring Road Westlands, and coming out towards Chiromo, that is also building up. So Westlands look like something to contend with today. Also on Gong Road, coming off Uhuru Highway indeed, as well as look on the other side of things, Haile Selassie. And then let's look at Raila Odinga Way, which is taking off some of that heavy traffic coming off of Langata Road. So everywhere you look this morning, really, really busy. Coming off Mombasa Road, not too bad today. That's not going to cause too much of a headache. But the Eastern Bypass is extremely busy as you go past Embakasi towards North Airport Road. It's that Monday morning. It looks like it's going to get manic. Let's keep an eye on things as we go along. And then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It's 8 minutes after 8. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. If you're just joining us, we are on SpiceFM, we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and now we are on KTN Home for the next 1 hour. Kenya's biggest conversation taking place every weekday morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. with Eric, Ndu, and CT. Who has the day's proverb?
It's from the Congo Republic. If you tell people to live together, you tell them to quarrel.
If you tell people to live together, you tell them to quarrel.
You will have brought together a divergence of views which are nestled in the diversity of the people who you have brought together. And when those views are expressed and they're divergent, every once in a while a quarrel will ensue.
So there'll be a clash here and there.
Yes.
Quarrel here and there. Only thing is usirudi kwenu. Let's resolve these issues.
Yes.
Tumalizia
hapa tu. Let's find a common ground.
Let's find something.
And that common ground is often nestled in the ability to listen. Because quarrels arise when there is this great need for everybody to express their view and not to listen or to try and accommodate the other person's view.
Oh, everybody to win.
Kila mtu anataka sema yake na hakuna mtu anasikiza mwenzake.
Yes. Reminds me of a press conference addressed by the late Mwai Kibaki sometime in the 90s, and that clip has been doing the rounds, where he was talking about democracy is about listening to the other person's opinion and respecting first of all the fact that they have a right to have an opinion.
Yes.
Start from there. And then listen to their opinion. It may actually help you.
Yeah, too. Listen to my opinion.
When I want your opinion, I'll give it to you.
I'll give it to you, but meanwhile, listen to mine.
Yes. Let's talk about the journey towards August 9th, because we know that on August 9th, we have a general election. We are going to elect people in very many positions in the country. From MCAs to members of the National Assembly, to members of the Senate, to county governors, to members of which one? County assemblies. Have I said county assemblies?
No, you hadn't. You're good.
To women reps, to president, president one.
That's only one position.
That's the only one.
The other ones have plurals to it, but this one it's one.
This one is one. In total, 1,882 elective positions. Yes? All those are very many leaders to elect on a single day. A commissioner with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission joins us now, Francis Wanderi. Very good morning to you, Commish.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on the hot seat of Kenya's biggest conversation.
That's nice. I'm happy to be here.
We call it the hot seat, but you know what? It's like we say, it's to show our hospitality.
Yeah.
Hatutaki ukae hapa na baridi.
Sawa. Asante.
Feel at home.
I'm at home.
Yes.
I've not been here before, but I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
First time.
Thank you. Now let's begin with the crucial dates.
Yes.
Today is a crucial date on the calendar of the IEBC.
Yes.
And today is the day that those seeking executive elective positions are supposed to be going to the IEBC to present their papers with those of their running mates. This is president and governor candidates.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Correct.
And why is today the deadline?
Well, today, before you came to today's date, the 16th, about 2 weeks ago, the parties requested that we extend the time that they were required to submit the names of the president and their deputies. And they negotiated and we agreed, because the commission is a listening commission. We wanted them to have enough time, and they agreed that by today, both the parties, all the parties that are sponsoring presidential candidate, will submit to the commission the name of the president and their deputies. That applies to independent candidates who are running for presidential position as well. They are required to submit their names and the names of their deputies. Equally, all the governors, today they are supposed to submit the names of their their governor candidate and their deputies. So that is a negotiated position between IEBC, political parties, as well as independent candidates. So that is the position. And the reason why we came to this is because IEBC also requires time to look through the candidates and their qualifications and other requirements of law, so that we can now be able to say we have candidates. Right now, we are in that position. So
we don't
today,
have candidates yet.
We don't have candidates yet. We are
Okay.
going to have candidates after we have received their names and the requirement. What happened earlier on, which a lot of Kenyans thought that it is IEBC clearance. It was not IEBC clearance. It is a clearance by the registrar of political parties. And the requirement here is that if you are an independent candidate, you are supposed to submit your logo to the registrar of political parties, who looks at your logo and says this logo does not belong to any political party. Right?
Or any other independent candidate.
Yeah, or any other independent candidate. 2, you are not a registered member of any political party. That is, you are running as an independent candidate. And that is what has been submitted to us. So it is now, from today onwards, that now we shall also be able to scrutinize the details provided to IEBC by those leaders who are looking for elective positions.
So in addition to just the names,
yes.
So let's say we know already some political parties have decided on their names and their candidates. So William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua come to you today. In addition to their name and ID to prove that I am William Ruto and I am Rigathi Gachagua, what else should they present?
Now, the political parties can present that.
Okay.
William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua do not have, they have to present that. The political party can present that. However, we will do candidates registration between the 29th of May to the 7th of August. That is the time they will they will come personally to present themselves for registration to the returning officer of the presidential election, that is Chebukati. Now, what they will present, the parties will present them today, and the independent candidate will presented. We will now start the process of scrutinizing those papers, because they are also required to present what we call the ethical clearances. In other words, from Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, they have to present those documents, the academic qualifications. For the presidential and governors, you have to be a degree holder. You have to be cleared by HELP, KRA, Credit Reference Bureau, all that process. Now, we as in the commission will be required to check what you have presented to us with, for example, academically, we need to go to the Commission of University Education to check whether what you have presented to us is a valid degree or not. Right? Then, it's only after we have gone all those clearances that you should be able now to say that you are a candidate, and then you come for registration between the 29th to the 7th of June. It's from there on that the IEBC will now be able to say these are our candidates, and we are going to print the ballot papers for this particular candidate.
And so the IEBC has the final word on who candidates actually are.
Yes, that is the mandate of IEBC.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, with all the campaigning and the back and forth that we are seeing and everybody saying what, in reality, I mean, like we said, there are no candidates per se.
As of now, the IEBC cannot tell you this is a candidate because you can present those papers, you don't qualify, and we tell you don't qualify.
Okay.
And for this reason.
Okay.
Yes.
What?
And then from there, after you have presented and cleared you, and you have allowed you to participate in the election, then the campaign period starts from 30th of May.
Okay.
Up to the 6th of August.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what happens should you find any discrepancies in these presentations that have been made to you? What recourse do you take? And it could be anything, like you say, from the Higher Education Board, you find that, or from the University Board, you find that. this degree is not valid, for example, or you find that somebody's record is not clean, anything that is a flaw deemed by IEBC that then does not allow this candidate to be on your list, what recourse do you take, if any?
Well, if, for example, assume a case where a candidate presents a degree that is fake or from a university that is not recognized in Kenya, we will disqualify you. Because that is a legal requirement. If you don't have a degree that is recognizable by Kenya, or even if it's a degree that is from another university, for example, a university in the US that is not accredited in the US, we will disqualify you and you will not participate in the election. It's that simple.
Okay.
Yeah, because that is a legal requirement. IEBC has a mandate to implement the election law in accordance with the Constitution and the Election Act.
Are any of these then issues that will be given after that appealable?
There are some that you can appeal. What will happen is after we have presented your candidature, let's say any time between the 29th to the 6th to the 7th, we'll give you an appeal period. That is between, the latest date of appeal is of 6th of June. So if you have any issues that you feel that IEBC has not been fair to you, you can appeal, you can go and get that matter sorted. So there is an appeal period between the 30th and the 9th of June. You can appeal any decision you think is not fair.
Okay.
Independent candidates or aspirants have complained recently.
Yes.
They've said IEBC has come up with something out of the blues, a new requirement, that in addition to me presenting my name, I shall go and fill out a form, and I'll need to get, just like is required in law, I'll need to come and show that I have the support of my constituents. Either 1,000 if you're running for governor, or 22,000 per county in half of the 47 counties if you're running for president.
Yes.
But then now the issue here is that you also now want them to bring copies of IDs.
Okay.
And they're asking, where is that coming from?
Thank you very much for that question. Let me clarify. IEBC does not impose any conditions. Its position, the work with IEBC is to follow the law and facilitate the candidates. It's a legal requirement that was passed, I think, 2017, allowed just before the election 2017, that candidates running for president, both independent and those nominated by the political parties, must submit 2,000 signatures from at least majority of the constituencies in this particular, majority of the counties. In this particular case, we are talking about 24. All right? In addition to signatures, they must submit photocopies of their supporters. That is the law. That is the legal requirement, and the IEBC is just implementing what was discussed. The reason why that was not implemented in 2017, because by the time this law was passed, already the nominations had been done by the political parties, and there was no time for them to be able to do that. But we are not imposing as IEBC. We are implementing the law as it is required. So if you do not have that number, we will not allow you to participate.
But are you hearing the concern here? The concern is being raised that when you start going asking for people to give you copies of their IDs, it's basically that they've given you the ID for you to get a photocopy on their behalf, or they've gone and done a photocopy and given you. That is now breaching into the areas or getting into the areas of data and privacy. And many people would be uncomfortable with that. And so the expectation was either that IEBC should have gone ahead to sensitize the people, that candidates will be coming to you seeking your IDs. When they do, just know that it's IEBC. They'll be bringing to the IEBC in accordance with the law. Or you seek ways of helping them.
No, IEBC does not help candidates. If you choose to be a candidate for any position, it is your duty to look for what is required. What is the requirement for that position? It's not the duty of the IEBC.
But the IEBC has a duty to the voter.
Yes.
I, as a voter, if IEBC told me,
let me
I
explain.
can give an ID copy.
Let me explain. Two issues here about the data security. We have sought the opinion and cleared with the data commissioner that as a requirement of the law, and there is nothing you can do about it. So my advice to those who feel that this is not working out very well for them is to go to the Court of Appeal and get that section declared unconstitutional. And it's because as of now, there is not much we can be able to do. We have told the candidates that we want to vie for the presidential position that this is a requirement by law. And the easiest thing we can be able to do is to appeal against that section of the law, because we have told them they have been advised, and even when they came to seek for this advice from the IEBC, we advised them. We had a meeting with them. They had been coming, meeting our people, our staff, and this is a requirement which they knew.
You know why to the layman it seems like an uneven playing ground? That these requirements are not required of political parties and their candidates.
It is required of all presidential candidates,
All
including
candidates.
all, not independent alone, even those sponsored by political parties.
So you're saying that even political parties and their candidates have to provide this same requirement?
Same requirement.
Now, the reason why I bring it up, when Eric said you have a duty, see, if I hadn't asked this question now, most people would have the point of view that I had, that it seems like it's only the independents that this is required of. It doesn't kill the IEBC to actually state and say, folks, listen, these are the basic requirements. Just, it's out there. This is what it takes if you want to be president, irrespective of whether you're in a political party or irrespective of whether you're a president. Would you say the IEBC has done enough of this, of informing the public that these are the requirements?
I remember our chairman issued a presser to that effect, that all those candidates who are going to run for presidential positions are required by law to fulfill these conditions. All right. Now, one of the reasons why I'm here, and I'm happy to be here, and we are doing this a lot, is that you want to continue to educate the Kenyans on the issues that they may not. You may be listening to people here and there, they will raise a lot of issues, and we are very happy to come to studio to talk to Kenyans and tell them exactly what is happening, what is required. So we had issued a presser to that effect. When the parties and the independent candidates representative came to the IEBC, we discussed that matter with them, and our chairman actually addressed a press conference where I was present on the same matter. So it is, we expect that when we do a presser or issue a press conference, that we have communicated to the Kenyans.
Actually, no, you haven't. What you've done is communicate to a section of the Kenyans what you're doing now, and if you do more of it, now that is ensuring that more and more people get to hear. How many people get to read what is in the papers? No. How many people even buy newspapers? How many people watch TV? I'm simply trying to explain to you that stating it once, whether it's on radio, you make sure it's on TV, even if it's just once, that message is forgotten by the end of that day. A message this important is something that needs to be put across many, many times. That's when people understand, this is it.
Yeah, whenever we have an opportunity, we are doing that. Yes. Our commissioners have been going to the radio stations, to the TV stations, to talk about all the issues related to the elections. And we even have a social media communication system that is getting all this information to the public. So we have a robust communication system. We would want to do more, and we will continue to do more as we move towards the elections.
I want to give you direct feedback here.
Yes.
So even looking at the IEBC social media account, and we looked at it over the last 2 weeks or so, there has been no communication to the voter
Yes.
on this requirement. This is a requirement that not only touches on the candidate, but also touches on the voter.
Okay.
Because the voter has got to endorse this candidate. So the voter needs to know that, yes, a candidate will come to me and request me to give them a copy of my ID, in addition to appending my signature to their form.
Okay.
Now, if you have not done sufficient voter education, are you seeing it's possible for Eric Latiff Omtata to go to court and say, well, IEBC is not doing its job?
Okay. Let's agree there may be not enough communication, and I can assure you that we're going to try and do that as much as possible.
Okay.
Yeah. And I not only on this particular matter, on any other matter that has to do with the elections as we move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a break on that point, and then we continue the conversation. It's 29 minutes coming up to 8:30. Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on SpiceFM, on YouTube and Facebook, SpiceFM KE. Those are our handles on YouTube and Facebook. And also we are live on KTN Home. Commissioner Francis Wanderi from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is here with us today, talking about these crucial dates ahead of the August 9th general election. Today is the final day for presidential candidates and gubernatorial candidates to present, maybe political parties or their nominees, to present the names to the IEBC. And then we know thereafter, the candidates will then be required to go through the checks. We want to talk about those checks and what the IEBC will be looking at as they say, okay, you're cleared or you're not cleared. What are those requirements? 8:30, we'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room.
Also,
the only way to...
Nairobi, light rain as well at 16, highs of 25. We'll see lows of 16 today. It's sunny at 15, highs of 25 and lows of 14 in Nakuru. And light rain continues in Nyeri at 15, highs of 23 and lows of 14. The sun is out in Eldoret at 18, highs of 26 and lows of 12. We're looking at sunny conditions in Mombasa at 27, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Malindi, raining at 27, highs of 30, back down to lows of 27. And we're looking at mostly sunny conditions at 21 in Kisumu, highs of 29 and lows of 19. It's mostly sunny at 23 in Kakamega, highs of 28 and lows of 16. Cloudy conditions and rain in Kampala at 22, highs of 27 today, back down to lows of 18, while Dar es Salaam is sunny at 24. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 23. 8 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, 18 will be the high and lows of 7. And it's mostly clear at 26 in Lagos with highs of 33. It'll come down to lows of 25. Kinshasa is sunny at 24. We'll see highs of 33.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Still continues hot and heavy on the Thika Superhighway this morning. Just a heads up, folks, that is not letting up anytime soon. And we're seeing that traffic has gone well into the belly of Kiambu County coming off the Thika Superhighway. And we're also seeing more traffic on Kiambu Road today and Muthaiga really heavy. And we're looking at Limuru Road well beyond United Nations Avenue today is where the traffic is creeping in from. And the question is, did everybody wake up on Monday? Well, it would appear so. Looking into Westlands, traffic is really heavy. And we're looking at Westlands going into Lavington from James Gishuru and backward into Kileleshwa out towards Dennis Pritt. That traffic really, really heavy today coming out onto Chiromo at Riverside. Gong Road also really heavy as well. We're looking at Rilo Dinga Way looking a little bit better now. Langata Road still heavy as you get to the T-Mall overpass. Okay. Interchange. Thank you. Even swankier. Let's talk later. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let us know what's going on where you are. And then let's text 40127.
Spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life.
Okay, 26 minutes to 9. We are here. We continue the conversation. Eric Latiff, Okoh, CT Muga, and Commissioner Francis Wanderi from the IEBC. We're looking at the crucial dates ahead of the August 9th general election. This is a point when IEBC is clearing aspirants and then declaring them. Then from that point, they become candidates. So from the 29th of May, Commissioner, is when you've said these people who will be coming today, the political parties, let's say, will present the names of their candidates and the running mates for president and governor. And then from the 29th to the 7th of June, the candidates themselves now come to you. After having gone and collected all the required documents, go to EACC, get a stamped form. Go to Kinoti, get a stamped form. Go to KRA, go to HELB, go to the Commission on University Education, all those places, they come to you. What would you be looking for when they come with all those forms?
Well, we'll be looking for example, EACC, whether you are, EACC plus, of course, the Director of Public Prosecution, to see whether you have any criminal record. Because the law requires that if you have been convicted for a period of 6 months or more on a criminal activity, then you are disqualified for participating in an electoral position. That is part of what we'll be looking for. Commission for University Education will be scrutinizing your degree, and they will send them to the Commission for University Education to confirm whether that is a valid degree or not. KRA, whether you are cleared as a Kenyan who pays tax. Then there is a Credit Reference Bureau, whether you have a record of bankruptcy or those kind of things. That can, because if you are bankrupt, you don't qualify to participate in an election as a leader. And HELP, whether you have paid your Higher Education Loans Board obligations, or you are complying to. You don't have to have paid, but you are paying as required. Those are the issues we'll be looking at. So once the candidates come forward to us with that information, we needed to verify that what you have given to us with those institutions that are required to do so. So for EACC, there is a self-declaration form that you are supposed to fill and give it to them. Then if there are any issues that have to do with your credibility or integrity, we will deal with that. What we are talking about is Chapter 6 of our Constitution. Yeah.
But are you satisfied that you'll be able to net people who have questionable integrity? In this particular case, say somebody has been convicted by a court of law, has been sentenced, but they are still going through the appeal process. Are your hands tied, or do you have the authority to actually say, you know what, you still have a case in court? The issue of help, is it as a legal requirement, or is it just one of those things that have now become standard practice that you have to have some clearance from help?
It is a practice. Let me put it this way. I don't think it is within
It's
the.
not.
It's
not anywhere in law.
But it's a practice that has been, for you to hold a public office, then you need to see that you are meeting your obligations. The issue of integrity, which you have talked about. Now, if you have been convicted, and we know in Kenya we have people who have been convicted, and they have gone to the Court of Appeal, we, according to our Constitution and our laws, you are still considered innocent. So IEBC will not stop you as long as the appeal process is in place.
Even if you know that there's an individual of questionable character, 1, 2, or there might be, a smudge on their image, it doesn't matter. And the IEBC then, from what you're saying, cannot override the suggestion that the appellate court could free this person. Are we basically saying that in this regard, the hands of the IEBC is tied by the law?
The eyes of IEBC are tied by the law to the extent. For example, if you have been impeached by Parliament or Senate, then IEBC considers that as a quasi-judicial organization because that quasi-judicial organization has said that you should not hold a public office.
Okay.
For that reason, IEBC cannot clear you. Because this is a very clear decision of an independent institution, right, Parliament. Therefore, IEBC will take that as a premise under which we must make our decision.
I seek clarity on this.
If IEBC does not clear you, and you want to go to appeal against the IEBC decision in court, that is up to you. But there are certain cases whereby IEBC will take positions because a decision has been determined. There are other people who have gone to court. They have gone to the Court of Appeal. They have gone to the Supreme Court. And the decision may have been sustained as it was decided by the High Court. All right? Now, if you have that kind of a process and it has been determined by the Supreme Court, then there's no other court beyond that. IEBC will not clear you.
What if it's still pending? What if somebody was impeached, but they are contesting the impeachment, and the matter is still in the judicial process?
But you see, if you are impeached, a decision that has been made that you should not hold a public office by Parliament is a binding decision.
So
if the court would want to interpret that matter differently, the IEBC will not be part of that decision. We will implement what we think is right as IEBC.
So are we saying today, clearly, that if there are individuals who have been impeached and are aspiring to be leaders again, what we are saying is that during this clearance process, IEBC will not give that clearance?
That is the position.
Let that sink in.
Even as it sinks in, I am actually asking myself, if somebody is convicted by a court of law, is that not also a decision? Is that also not a determination that this person is guilty? Now, they then appeal. Why does the IEBC not take the same position when it comes to this? Because a court is a court of law. It is where you go for redress, and they have determined that this person is guilty, have even pronounced a sentence, and then the person appeals, but a position was taken.
And it's not
How is that different from the position that is taken when one has been
impeached?
Yes.
It is different because Parliament is an independent institution like
the court.
Like the courts.
Yes.
All right? And the Parliament has gone further and said this person does not qualify to hold a public office. And there are many cases that have been said, even for public officers who have been working in the government or in the county government, and they have been declared that. Once that decision is made, even if you have appealed, and the decision is very, very clear, Parliament itself is a quasi-judicial organization that has a mandate to make that kind of a decision. It is different from somebody who is going through the court process. All right? Because you have appealed against a decision, and you have cases, we don't know how to mention anybody, but you have cases whereby people have gone through the court process, they have been sentenced, then they have been told, they have appealed against the sentence, and they are said, now you have appealed, you are set out of jail, go out and appeal out of
There's a stay order.
Now, until IEBC has been given other direction by the court, that person, in accordance with our law, is considered innocent until further. And I want to get this argument further. even if you are elected today as a member of parliament or a senator or whatever position, when their appeal is determined and you are found guilty, you lose your position. Even if you lose your position. Okay? So that is the premises of law, and I think the IEBC must operate within that.
Okay. So are you essentially saying that there could be folks who are campaigning today and are essentially wasting time and funds going around campaigning when they will not be cleared by the IEBC in the very near future?
I do not want to say that. I want to say that anybody comes on his own, and we will apply the law, and we will either clear you or not clear you depending on the status.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's look at another issue that well before 2017 was determined by, 2017 then, determined by court in terms of mechanisms that political parties needed to put in place to make sure that there was a balance of gender.
Yes.
To say that at the political party level, let's make sure that 2/3 not more than be represented by any gender, right? Yes. So then political parties then have been mandated by law to put in mechanisms that would ensure this. That was not enforced because they asked for more time, right? 5 years down the line, we are here now. IEBC came out and said, look, guys, as you're presenting these lists to us, make sure that we have this balance represented on your lists. Should you not do that, and as we've checked the list, we will give you 48 hours to then fall in line. If you don't do that, we're going to chuck everybody off the list. Was IEBC intent on sticking to that?
Yeah, we are. Actually, we had given them up to the 12th of this month. And somebody went to court. Yes. Somebody went to court and they said that situation is unconstitutional and whatever argument, and we are told to not to effect it pending the hearing, which is supposed to be 13th is when?
13th?
Was on Friday.
Was on Friday.
It was on Friday.
Yep.
So we are waiting for the determination. I'm not sure, I have not got to the latest. But the matter went back to court because the judgment was to be given, the ruling was to be given on Friday. Our position is that any party that will not fulfill the 2/3 gender requirement, all their candidates, whatever position they are running, will be struck off, will be prohibited from participating in this election. That position is there, and we are also implementing the decision that all parties are required to nominate not more than 2/3 of one gender when they are presenting their candidates. In the Senate, for example, if you are Senate positions that you are sponsoring candidates, if you are Parliament, you are sponsoring candidates, all right? Governors, you are sponsoring candidates, but not governors, sorry. MCAs, there is a top-up system that is already in the Constitution. In the Constitution, that if you do not have 2/3 or 1/3 of which, then you have to top up by the gender that is disadvantaged. But for the others, we are effecting that.
Now, if this matter, say for instance, it is in court, the court determines that the IEBC position is to be maintained, and those who appeal upwards, and keep appealing upwards. So long as there's an appeal and there's a stay order, what you're saying is that the political parties will then be able to field whatever candidates they like in the manner that they have chosen without necessarily subscribing to this 2/3 gender rule.
Okay, let me tell you, that's not the position. The position is this: we are going to effect it. If they go to appeal, what we have done, and our chairman has talked with the Chief Justice, all issues that are relating to the election process that are coming to court be given preference, so that they are determined in good time to allow the process go on. So if there is an appeal against this decision of the IEBC, if it goes to appeal, we will look at the goodwill of the judiciary, because they are working with us to facilitate the elections, to make sure this matter is determined in good time. Yes.
I want to take you back to the matter of the clearances.
Yes.
We last week we hosted the CEO of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission together with the Director of Public Prosecutions. And specific to the matter of the academic credentials, they said there were cases where they could see clearly that the certificates that had been presented by the people when they were filling the self-declaration forms were not legit.
Yes.
They even raised the issue with the DCI, and the DCI conducts investigations and establishes that, yes, there's an issue. But this person has gone to court. We already have people who are aspirants this time, and they have pending court cases as to the legitimacy of their academic papers.
Yes.
What is the IEBC's position today on this one? Are you going to say, as far as we are concerned, there's a question on the legitimacy of your academic credentials, and in public interest, we are not going to allow you to vie? You go and appeal. Because where does the public interest lie? Is it in allowing the candidate who may not have met the qualifications to continue with the process? And then let's say it's found that actually, yes, that degree was fake. We have to take the people back into an election process. Or where is the public interest in denying this person the opportunity?
I think in the public interest, the best decision is to deny the person, because if there are integrity issues on that particular person, that this certificate which you have brought, and we know we are seeking information from the institutions that are supposed to do that for us. For example, if anti-corruption says that the degree that I have is fake, then we will tell you that you cannot accept you as a candidate because you have been advised by the institutions that you are working with, because we want those institutions to give us information. That is the basis on which we are going to clear you or not clear you. So if we have been advised this is a position, then we will not be able to do that. And I can tell you, I think there is a case some time back, I think 2013, where somebody vied and he went to court, and I don't want to say where, but they went to court, and he was charged that the degree that he had was fake. And eventually it was determined the degree was fake. And of course he was disqualified. So what you are saying, we will disqualify you on the basis of that as an institution.
Whether there's a case in court or not.
In this particular case, as I have told you, we are working with the judiciary, and we are asking them to process those things as quickly as possible. And I'm sure in the interest of justice and in public interest, the best thing is for us to clear you once we have been cleared by the court. And the Chief Justice is cooperating, and we have requested that, and it is happening. So in this process, we have to work with other institutions that facilitate the integrity of the election.
There was another issue which has gone to court and has been determined in the Court of Appeal, and this is the famous Minor K decision.
Yes.
With regards to where does the presidential election take place?
Yes.
Does it take place at the constituencies, or does it take place at Bomas? Now, this issue was basically saying that Wafula Chebukati has no role at all in telling us who the winner is in the presidential election.
Okay, thank you.
That the election takes place in the 290 constituencies. What's going to happen this time?
Can I correct you?
Yes.
Elections don't take place in the 290 constituencies. Election will take place in about 48,000 polling stations. That's the premises that we must all agree as Kenyans.
Okay.
And I want to say, the vote that will be cast at the polling station. For example, I vote at a place called Kanyagia polling station in Ken constituency. The vote that will be cast at Kanyagia polling station for the presidential candidate, for the MCA, for the MP, for governor, for women rep, and all those positions is the vote that will count. And I want to explain a little bit further. Our election process is basically manual. The area where the technology comes in is when you are registering as a voter. We take your biometrics, and those biometrics are in our data. We take your ID number and your names, period. When you come to vote, that is the next position where we identify you through your biometrics. Okay? We identify through the biometrics, and we take all the 10 fingers so that if any one of them get cut or something happens, you can use the other 9.
Yep.
So we try all the 9. All right? That is very, very important because once you identified with the biometrics, then that is the only time that you can be able to vote. And you use your ID as the other document for identification. The third area where we use the technology is during transmission. What will happen and what we will do, once you have voted, you have your agents there, you have observers, and you have a team. You will be at the end of the polling, close of the polling station at 5 o'clock. We seal the box, then we open it again. We count votes one by one. Let's use the presidential case. We will count the votes for all the presidential candidates.
At Kanyagia.
At Kanyagia polling station.
Which is a primary school in Kenya.
It is actually it's a hall.
A hall in Kenya.
It's a public hall in Kenya. Once we have counted all what has been voted for each particular candidate is tabulated in presence of your agents. The agent will sign the form to indicate these are the...
That is Form 34.
Yes, Form 34A. These are the results from Kanyagia polling station. All right? President name so-and-so has got this, so-and-so has got this, so-and-so has got this. Then they will take the KIMS kit, which they are using for identifying the nini. They take a picture of that result. That result form. All right? Those are the results.
Right.
All right? Then they will send it, transmit it through the same system to the National Tallying Center.
Okay.
Is that kit programmed to do only that? Take picture and then send?
No, this kit is the same one you are using for
to identify the voter.
To identify the voter.
Yes.
And in this kit, it shows that Muga has voted. He was number 200. Wanderi has voted was 201. To keep the record of that.
Okay.
And that record is supposed to be transmitted to the National Center.
Okay.
That at 9 o'clock, we open the polling station at 6, 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and the time of closing. So we have a track record of what has been happening at Kanyagia polling station.
Okay.
All right? So that is the form that is transmitted. That is the result, Form 34.
Okay.
So it's coming from the polling station directly to the national.
Yes, transmit direct to national.
Okay, now put that in context with a KI decision.
Yes, that is where minor KI decision, which is the position as of today, that the results, the election and the results at the polling station are final.
Now,
I want to let me finish this.
Please go ahead.
Because it's very important.
Please go ahead.
Once the form is done, the form you have filled at the polling stations is taken to the constituency office. The returning officer at the constituency will collect all the forms from Kieni constituency.
All 34As.
From 34A, add the total. Then you will be able to say, in this constituency, this candidate got so many marks, those candidate got so many votes, those so many votes. Then you transmit. This information, including together with all the results from the polling stations, will be delivered to the National Tallying Center. Okay? Form 34B now.
They'll be delivered physically.
Physically. Yes. You have transmitted this information, but following the fresh presidential elections, the ruling was that the originals must be taken to the National Tallying Center.
What is the status?
From all the 290 constituencies.
What is the status of that result that has been declared by the returning officer at constituency level? Is it a provisional result or is it a final result?
The final result is at the polling station. The tallying you have done at the constituency is the total of that. And when you bring that information, all right, there's no provisional result. Because you're supposed to add let's say, like Nyeri has maybe about 200 polling stations. All that total of that is the one that will be filled in from that FOB. And other than being transmitted, you bring it physically with all the attachments. And at the National Tallying Center, it's just to check that.
What was transmitted is the same.
What was transmitted from the polling station and what has been from the county, all that, people at the National Tallying Center will check. If Chebukati finds that you have made an error in entering this, for example, you may enter 17 or instead of 71.
Okay.
All right? Chebukati will only note that. He cannot change the result.
Okay.
That is the ruling. That is the law, that the results at the polling stations are final.
Commissioner Wanderi, I think we'll invite you to, as we get closer and closer to the August 9th date, come so that we can discuss these and other matters as well to make sure that everybody is on the same page with regards to whether we have manual transmission, electronic transmission, what's the role of each of these, which one is final and all that.
Yes.
Asante sana for joining us today.
What I would like to add is that as a moment we are trying to map out all the polling stations in the country to make sure that whether they have all got the 3G network, and you are working with the communication authority to determine that. And then soon we shall be announcing to Kenyans how many are covered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Francis Wanderi from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has been our guest this morning. The conversations continue in the next hour on SpiceFM. It's 9 a.m.
The latest news from around the world.
Kisumu County Communications Chief Officer John Oyo said the Askaris have been tasked with removing hawkers from the streets to maintain the city's aesthetics, as over 6,000 delegates from across the world are expected to attend the conference. Besides law enforcement, Oyo said the officials will also help in crowd management to ensure a seamless flow of visitors and vehicles during the continental event. All the Askaris from the sub-counties have been recalled to undertake the exercise as visitors trickle in for the conference slated to start tomorrow to Sunday. Now, the government will deploy a special unit in Mombasa County to flush out marauding criminal gangs and restore peace coexistence among locals. The announcement was made by the Coast Regional Police Commander Titus Karuri following the resurgence of juvenile criminal groups in the coastal city. The criminal gangs of young boys aged between 12 and 18 years, armed with pangas and other crude weapons, have been terrorizing Mombasa residents, where several people have been seriously injured and hospitalized. The most affected area are Kisauni, Old Town and Likoni. Addressing a security meeting attended by village elders from Kisauni Sub-County at Mtopanga AIC Church, chaired by Coast Regional Commissioner John Elangata, Karuri said the special police unit from Nairobi would start operation this week to put an end to the criminal activities. A Kirinyaga woman representative Ngwengerishi has unveiled Egli Wanjao as a running mate for the gubernatorial seat in the August election. Wanjao is a former assistant commissioner at KRA and hails from their constituency. Gerishi is contesting as an independent candidate after ditching the United Democratic Party following the entry of incumbent governor Anne Waiguru to the party. She will face Waiguru, who will be seeking a second term, as well as Senator Charles Kibiro, who will be the Jubilee Party flag bearer for the seat. Wangui has unveiled a campaign slogan dubbed Smairo Netike, which features a photo of actual teeth. Now, some 3.5 million Kenyans, particularly in arid and semi-arid areas, are facing hunger due to drought. The National Drought Management Authority says the number has risen to 400,000 to 3.5 million from 3.1 million in February. The government agency says this in its latest update. According to NDMA, the state of pasture in arid and semi-arid land areas in the East African nation, where residents rely on pastoralism, remains below normal as compared to previous years due to depressed rains. Kenya has lost more than 1 million animals that include cattle, goats, sheep and camels due to drought in the past months. Now, the quality of avocados from Meru County is said to improve after the Avocado Society of Kenya held a farmers' field day to sensitize farmers on the best practices of production. Speaking during the event held at Kaguru Agricultural Center that attracted more than 40 exhibitors from the agricultural sector, the Society's Chief Executive Officer, Ernest Muthomi, said the event is also meant to inform the farmers on the status of avocado farming in the country so that they can be informed on where they are and where they were and their future as avocado farmers. He said Meru County gets about 1 billion shillings from avocado farming and called on the residents to start investing in avocado farming to tap the good returns. The rebels killed 10 civilians during an attack hundreds of kilometers northeast of Central African Republic of Bangui. The attack, security forces says, has added without elaborating exactly what happened. He said second patrol from the Nepalese contingent had been dispatched to the scene, which is more than 400 kilometers northeast of Bangui. And Afghanistan's ruling Taliban unveiled their first annual budget on Saturday. Officials said it will be fully funded by domestic revenues and faces a fiscal deficit of about 44 billion Afghanis or nearly $500 million US. Deputy Prime Minister Abdul Salam Hanafi said that his interim government foresees spending 231.4 billion Afghanis, approximately $2.6 billion, and estimates domestic revenues of 186.7 billion Afghanis this financial year. He did not explain how the gap between proposed spending and expected revenues will be bridged. He added that 27.9 billion Afghanis would be spent on development projects. And finally, we are following up on statements being made today. Raila Odinga is expected to name his running mate later at KICC. Also, Senator Kithure Kindiki to make his next announcement on his future political moves after he missed being Deputy President William Ruto's running mate in the August 9th elections. We'll be bringing you that in our subsequent news bulletin. My name is Dennis Aceto. Good morning.
All right, let's take a look. Is it looking a little bit better on the thicker superhighway? Well, yeah, here and there. We're seeing traffic just past the Utali drifts now. And on Kiambu Road, a lot better than it was before. Limu Road also looking a tad better. Still some in and outbound traffic as you get past the Aga Khan Hospital. You should be all right, though, after that. Coming out of Westlands, it's all right. A little bit better here and there as well. Coming off Wayaki Way, and we're looking at James Gishuru. Folks are then crossing over and using the Red Hill Link Road. There's an option for you to get into the city much quicker. Let's look at Outer Ring, where everybody was feeding towards Outer Ring, coming off Manyanja, Juja, and Kangunda Road. Much better now, actually. Free flowing traffic without too much of an issue. Coming past Langata Road towards the interchange at T-Mall, a little bit of traffic here and there, and then folks are then spilling over to Raila Odinga Way. Lunga is doing the thing this morning. We're looking at back-to-back traffic in and outbound, and that's feeding off towards Likoni and then onto the interchange going towards the southern bypass, but nothing too painful, at least not for now. Let's take a look in about half hour or so, and then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This
8 minutes to after 9, Kenya's
the
biggest
only way
conversation
to start
on the
your day.
16th day, 2 days after mafuta kupanda by 5 shillings, 250.
It is still going to go up.
Yeah.
set your mind on 200. It will reduce your stress because you'll have determined, even as it rises, you'll say, well, it hasn't gotten to 200 yet.
And if it gets to the end of the year and it has not hit 200,
then
the money that you had budgeted, cooler Christmas.
Exactly. You will not be stressed. But this thing of thinking of days gone by when, it used to be 100, put that to rest.
Just the other day it was 86.
Yes, not very long ago. Well, not very long ago we didn't have COVID. And not very long ago, Russia had not attacked Ukraine.
Not very long ago was 2020.
And not very long ago, there was no election around the corner. So, focus on the future.
Okay.
Yes.
The day's proverb, City?
It's from Congo Republic. If you tell people to live together, you tell them to quarrel.
If you tell people to live together, you tell them to quarrel.
Essentially.
For as long as you're living with somebody, expect that there will be some quarrel here and there.
The differences that we all have, well, if you're living on your own, it's you with your own differences. But the moment the other people, your differences will have to interact with other people's differences. And the manifestation of the interaction of these differences is what sometimes manifests itself in the form of a quarrel. It's not necessarily negative.
You may quarrel and call Nyumba Kumi people was there to come and sort out your issue. You may quarrel and go home.
You may quarrel and go to the police.
You may quarrel and go to the police or the
you
chief.
You may even go to court. Yes. But in all this, what you're seeking is a resolution which in many instances would have been arrived at with greater ease if you had only listened, as opposed to determining that you are the one who must be heard.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you sending a message to Kalonzo?
No. I am merely stating a fact.
Okay.
Most disagreements arise when no one is listening to the other. Everyone wants to speak, so everybody speaks. So no one actually hears anything except the noise that each person is producing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you must produce a marriage certificate when one of the parties asks, wait, tulisign the certificate. Hebu nione? Hapana.
These marriage certificates we speak of that are based on understandings that we're actually not privy to. We are told what people want us to know. There are discussions that even members of the so-called political parties don't know. It's the leaders who talk about them and determine. But they'll tell you what they want you to understand. That's why I am a little reluctant to make very determined comments about these things, because I am talking about something without adequate information. Yes.
You've been given a lot of information, you just do not want to accept it.
I've been given a lot of information, but it's more disinformation than information.
We have a guest in the studio. Political analyst Gerald Bitok is here with us. Good morning, Gerald.
Good morning, Tisa. It's a pleasure to join you guys finally.
Good to have you in the show, and Asante for joining us.
I'm glad.
This issue, let's just begin from that point, okay? Wiper says they're going to court this morning. They those things. Okay? Should they be given the wedding certificate just to look at? What's wrong with that?
I mean, and the demands that Wiper is making are very legit. And like you're saying, if we get married today and we have a certificate, as the wife, I should even have a copy, even if it's not the original. I should have the copy and I can refer to it sometimes and say, okay, so this girl has been beating me for 10 years now. What did we exactly agree with in this marriage? What is my exit clause? What was supposed to be my benefit? Because even as we speak, then the members don't even know what they're supposed to benefit from in terms of this agreement. And when you look at the way Kenyan politics is happening right now, actually, this is when politics has started. For all this time, we've not been politicking. We've just been moving around on rallies. This is when now it's beginning and it's going to shape up as we move forward. So when you look at the demands that Wiper is making, very legit, but it's a bit too late in the night, It's a bit too late in the night, but in terms of political perception, they could make us sway.
They could
make us sway. In terms of political perception, they could make us sway. And at this point, the politics as we move to the general elections will be majorly about perception. How do you look like as an outfit? How organized do you look like? How much do you attract other people to join you? So when you look at Azimio and you look at Kenya Kwanza, if Kalonzo finally makes that switch, we'll join Alfred Mutua, who made a switch last week, Amason Kingi, who was from as well as Azimio, who made a switch the other day. So there could be some serious perception. If he remains in Azimio and he's not picked as a running mate, there is no news. But if he remains is picked as a running mate, it could shape narrative in a different way. So let's watch it. But I don't know why Kalonzo had to wait for the last minute. That's the biggest problem with Kalonzo. Biggest undoing is dilly-dallying. You dilly-dally until nobody cares anymore about you.
You run out of time.
Yeah, so I don't understand.
Because I guess, at some point it will be too late to, we've been saying, okay, this grandstanding is just a move to negotiate. This grandstanding is a move to demand to be recognized. But at some point, you run out of time.
But you see, when you look at
you get to a certain point where your only options are, so you either just shut up
and stay,
or you walk. And when you're walking, you have to have sufficient momentum.
Plus where you're going.
To carry you wherever you want to go.
When you look at Azimio, when you talk about negotiations, I don't see it anywhere. I don't know where you've seen negotiations. I've not seen it myself. I've only seen an interview. And
where? In Azimio?
Yeah. Where did you see negotiations?
Where, what do you mean?
Where did you see negotiations?
You see, our view...
Because even Kalonzo has been told point blank that if you want to leave, leave. Stop making noise inside this marriage. And it seems like there's someone who's pulling a card. There's a wild figure somewhere that keeps pulling these strings. And when you look at Azimio, they're not trying so hard to romanticize Kalonzo like they used to do. Like, Kalonzo, please don't go. We still love you. You're telling him, if you want to leave, you leave. So about negotiations, I don't see it happening. The grandstanding, of course, was for negotiation purposes, so that these people can feel, we are losing you. But then he has realized that these guys are not bothered. And that's why maybe he's making the move that he's making right now. So it's an act of desperation, in the sense that, we've tried all this, it's not working. So the next thing that we need to do maybe is to now finally move. So if he doesn't move, it's now at 11 a.m., it's a do or die for Kalonzo.
Wasn't the move a negotiation on his part? Weren't the things that we were hearing, the eruption here and there, weren't those attempts by him to negotiate? And then previously, when everybody was trying to romance Kalonzo Musyoka, and previously the response that he would have gotten was, all right, well, let's see what we can do. In this case, he didn't get an all right, let's see what we can do. The response was, well, look, all right, this is what you want, we cannot do it, so you're allowed to go. Wasn't the negotiation largely on his part? We may have seen it, the optics on the other side would have been like, take me or take me. But the truth of the matter was that he was the one who was doing the negotiation. So
if you want to understand how Azimio has been engineered, you have to understand it backwards. Look at it backwards. Where did it start, first of all? It started with an handshake that even the partners were saying we are not aware of. Even Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi say they walk over, they saw Raila standing on at the footsteps of Arambe House, having an handshake. They felt they was not consulted on that. What followed was a process called BBI that many people have felt it was a blackmail of sorts, political blackmail. It went even to a point of bribing MCAs and all that to vote for it. After that, it came to formation of Azimio La Umoja that you've seen. Now, understand it reversely from that. What has Mudavadi said about the formation of Azimio? What has Wetangula said about the formation of Azimio? In his tantrums, what has Kalonzo said without saying? He has said without saying that there seems to be no room for negotiations and understanding within Azimio. And that's why he's been drawing all these tantrums that you're seeing around. If there was a negotiation at the back door, then he could be speaking about something that they've agreed on. And the document, they're talking about the document that was signed. They are saying this discreet. Even RPP does not have a copy. These guys, they took it, signed it, and they returned it back to them. And like what you were seeing the other day, RPP leaked the Kenya Kwanza agreement, which was all over social media. Nobody has been able to leak an Azimio agreement. So it tells you that, contrary to what we want to believe outside here, there seems to have been no negotiation actually prior to the formation of Azimio. And that's why now at this point people are like, hey, na tunafika uchaguzi and we don't know what we have, what we are getting. We umesikia yako, we umesikia yako, siyasikia. So that is where the push and pull that you're seeing right now. But Uhuru Kenyatta, I don't know what he has in his mind. But the more you look at it, the more you start feeling like maybe Uhuru Kenyatta actually wanted to destroy NASA as it was formerly. It has totally disintegrated. Only Raila Odinga remaining. And Raila Odinga doesn't seem to be bothered at all. He seems to be facing a mountain that he expects a miracle from. He only knows. So if Kalonzo Musyoka balls out, then that will be the end of NASA as it was. But I don't understand the blackmail behind the agreement. That you cannot leave. Once you are in, you cannot leave. You're even saying Mutua is battling a case in court. Pa is battling a case in court of leaving Azimio. There seems to be a marriage of it's either you're staying here or you're not staying. So were there negotiations? I doubt if there were. Is there going to be any more negotiations? I'm not seeing them coming.
What I find interesting is that all this driving and moving to court is based on some agreements that people had signed. But what I found even more particularly interesting is that people signed documents and they want us to understand that they didn't read them and didn't understand. Now that is a bit beyond me. All these people, some of them lawyers, Kalonzo lawyer, Kingi, lawyer. And you're telling me that beyond signing this document, prior to that, there were all sorts of either documents that had to be edited and versions produced, and all this time that these things were happening, because it wasn't just, this is the document, sign it. There was a process.
But now, these guys are not the first victims. Remember Mike Sonko? What happened to Mike Sonko?
But was Mike... No. You've gotten to the
About
heart
what?
of the matter, Mr. Bitok, because...
Because he said the same thing. I was
That's
given
the
a
point.
document, yeah.
Am I to take what a politician says as being the truth and the only truth that I'm dealing with?
And that's what I'm telling you now.
Yes.
It's the same information that you're dealing with. You are talking about the agreement because they told us about it, that we didn't know what was there. But then again, it tells you about the deceit in Kenyan politics. The deceit and the lies and the betrayal that lies in Kenyan politics is so tasteless. If you have a national leader coming out to say, another leader gave me something to sign, I didn't read it, but I signed it, but I don't have a copy. It's. I mean, they need to give us another story. They should tell us what they agreed on that they don't want to tell Kenyans about. So for me, that whole story exposes the deceit in Kenyan politics, that even the person who has been conned is refusing to tell us what he has been conned of. So for me, I think the document, whatever they had written in there, is it's so embarrassing that maybe none of them wants to talk about it. That's the only explanation I can give.
Actually, given that we're talking about politicians, the perspective you present is a possibility, but consider also, when politicians go to bargain, do they go to bargain for themselves? Do they go to bargain for their party? Do they mix the two? What is this which is at the forefront of the bargaining?
Politicians have never gone to bargain for anybody. They bargain for themselves.
Precisely.
Yes.
Now,
They've never gone to bargain
if you've gone to bargain for yourself and also throw in your people while you're at it, we all understand, this is something we all agreed on, it's a consensus, that the power of your negotiations have to do with what you are, what we call you're bringing to the table.
Yes.
And Eric puts it, you have a problem because somebody comes to the table. So even as you're coming in, the person at the table has already brought the table. So you are joining them, not the other way around. Now, political negotiations, if we were to understand them, there is nothing like treachery in politics. The political terrain, as I see it, not just in Kenya, the world over, people saying this, changing their mind, turning around, switching, that is what you call the currency of politics. Now, when people say they were lied to, I'm repeating it. I have problems understanding this. Seasoned politicians signing documents that they don't know anything about.
Of whom have previously been part of coalitions.
Yes.
They've been part of coalitions before.
Yeah.
This is not a new phenomenon when it comes to Kenyan politics, that the coalition will take precedent over your single party kind of thing. So here we are being fed this narrative that they really did not know what's going on. I think that's the thing that is a bit confusing here, over and above what may have been in the writing or what may have been in the agreement that confuses us or befuddles us. I think the befuddling thing here is that seasoned politicians, for whom coalitions are not new to them, that they can come and then present a position where they are saying that we did not actually know what was going on or what was written in the document. I think that here is a fallacy.
But then again, it should be the honors of the drafters of this agreement to bring it out. It should be the honors of Raila Odinga and maybe Uhuru Kenyatta to bring it and say, okay, this is the document. This is what it was saying. Now, the people who are complaining are not showing us the copies and the copies. They're not telling us what is in the document. And the people who are being accused of deceit are not showing us the real document. So if, for argument's sake, if I'm accusing you, Eric, of malpractice in an agreement that we have, it's either I produce this as a complainant that's saying this is what we agreed on, this is what you've not done, or you bring it and say, this is what we agreed on, and this is what I'm doing. So I worry more about the contents of that agreement. And I think on both ends, nobody wants to talk about it. So if let's not worry about the politicians and the complaints and the noises that are making. We want to know what was in this document that you're saying you signed and agreed on. If it's not going to come from Kalonzo and the other guys who are complaining, let it come from Uhuru Kenyatta, the chairman of Azimio, and Raila Odinga, the flag bearer of Azimio party. If that document is not produced, then it means all Kenyans have been conned.
How do you arrive at that conclusion? Because really, they are the ones who signed that agreement. I'm not even a part of that agreement. It's them, the politicians, doing their thing and agreeing. And since when have we actually ever been told of what politicians agree on?
But shouldn't that be a standard city? Because they're not signing. Alfred Mutua did not sign as citizen Alfred Mutua. He signed as party leader, Maendeleo Chap. There are people who are individuals who are members of Maendeleo Chap, if they haven't seen. If Kalonzo Musyoka signed or his officials signed, they signed as officials of Wiper. Wiper has ordinary members. Now,
Yes,
those
it
ordinary
does.
members are the person that Gerard is saying, they've all been conned.
Actually, I disagree. And why I disagree is the moment, let's take the view that they signed these things in the dark and they were using some fluorescent light or one of these.
And they signed with crayons.
Exactly. And they were not quite sure whether they actually signed along the dotted lines or on top of the dotted line or whatever the
Or
case
on the
may
table.
be. Yes. Now, if you know that this was the case, why do you make it an issue around the time when it has become hot that a running mate must be announced? One person declares they are okay if they are dominated. Another, I mean, why now? If it was wrong before.
From the beginning.
Why did it become wrong at this particular point in time so that you're now making it an issue? That's why I raised the question.
And that's why I think Kenyans should not be pulled into these agreements that they are not willing to share. If you want us to argue about this agreement, give it to us as a public. We look into it. We'll tell you who has been conned, who has not been conned. But if you don't want to give us the details of that agreement, then you need to shut up and make a political decision. If you are living that formation that you believe has conned you, the better. If you're staying there, then stay quietly, because then how can we help you?
But then again, now if we just go with the same principle, Bitok,
yes,
should all these coalitions be releasing there, not leaking, making proper public the documents that they have all signed? Kenya Kwanza, what we are talking about is what has been leaked. We actually have not heard from the leader of Kenya Kwanza that, okay, what you're seeing in the public is actually the truth. He has not come out to say, yes, it is. Okay? It has just been leaked. It's going round. They have not confirmed or denied. But should they not have said, this is what we have agreed? In fact, take out pages in the paper and publish the entire coalition agreement.
When you look at the way this country is operated, it's operated like a narco state. Like everything is operated in secrecy. It operates like an underground, like an underworld thing. Because in a proper world, we should have those things even being ratified by Nigeria. The same way having Kenya Kwanza is having what we call the bottom-up economic charters that are being discussed across regions, and they endorse it. They should also give us a document. We look at it and say, okay, this is how you guys want to share this national cake. Is there any backing that's going to happen? Is it enough for you to share? And then we can say, okay, fine, we are ready for it, and we can vote for you. When you look at even the campaign platforms that we are having, Azimia, what is the campaign platform for Azimia? I don't know, CT, if you are aware. Is there any campaign platform for Azimia? What are they campaigning on?
Raila for president.
There's no other platform it's campaigning on.
It's Raila for president.
Well, now we talk about...
They have a lot, Buana. There's a Lapsita, Babacare, there's a lot.
So there's been an
economic,
evolving.
what are you calling it? There's some economic development. Yes.
So I think there are documents that first of all must be ratified. First of all, you need to give us your campaign platform. That is number one. Number two, there's a very important document that I think it's time presidential candidates start signing. A national peace accord. That first of all, you're going to commit to having a peaceful electoral process. That two, you're going to accept the results of the elections. You're going to go to Kosarakas. They need to sign, all of them. Three, you need to tell us how you're going to share this thing. These Kenyans called 50 million. You're going to share. They think you're saying that you'll give us 30%, 20%. You need to give us as a public document, and we can ratify. We are not going to live with the leakages. But even, okay, we are better off now as the government is not operated like an narco state, but we're getting some leakages. So we can at least negotiate that. Can they leak all of them? Can the RPP also leak for Azimio? We need to see all of them. Whether they've leaked or not, we need to see all of them.
The world over, what political parties decide among themselves as coalitions, they know among themselves. Now, what you're suggesting that let's get out of this normalcy that we say is global. Us as Kenyans, let's come up with something that gives us even better transparency. Yes. And I agree with you, there's no reason why we shouldn't. But the truth of the matter is, the way our political system function, the way our politicians function, are we saying that in this election they're suddenly going to move from what has been considered their norm into this new dispensation where they've suddenly become open? We are told what they want us to hear, what they want us to know. You see, political discussions, negotiations about power sharing and who gets what, the truth of the matter is it's one of the most guarded secrets. They simply never talk about it in the open. They never do. What you hear is rumblings. Oh, we thought we were going to get this. We didn't get this. That's what you hear. But as to the documentation, as to this was what was agreed upon,
but I think
never get to hear about it.
There's a normal and then there's ideal. And I think the ideal is for the country and the citizens who are going to work for these people to get the details of these agreements. Can Kenyans demand that? Yes, we can. For the first time in the Kenyan political history, we're having a conversation around the economy. Every other person is grappling with it. The reason why I ask you about Azimio and their platform, Azimio has evolved from social, we're going to give you 6,000. It went to Babacare, they're going to give you Babacare and these other things. Now it is at Pesa Mfukoni. You saw Raila Odinga yesterday, he had a cap written Pesa Mfukoni. Pesa Mfukoni. Pesa Mfukoni.
Elufsita.
No, see Elufsita. Pesa Mfukoni in the sense that, because now, but 6K was social protection for the families that are not able to care for themselves. So that's not the whole of the population in Kenyans. But he's speaking about building an economy where Kenyans have money in the pocket. So every other person now, kila mtu sasa hivi anang'ang'ania conversation around the economy.
Yes.
For the first time, Kenyans are demanding that. We need to start talking about the state of the economy. Can we demand as well that these politicians are accountable to us? Yes, it's possible.
I agree that it's possible, but let me ask you this question. When you talk about the issues of the economy, it's sort of like taking center stage in our political discourse, more so at the presidential level. Do you really think that they're giving this topic a fair shake and actually discussing and telling us how it can be achieved? Statements, good. Blanket statements, even better. But how? Have you heard any presidential candidate telling you, this is how we are going to do it?
They're not putting meat to the conversation. What they're doing is they're responding and reacting to what they see the ground telling them. And that the country is yearning for a conversation about the economy and where to move. And so politicians, because they're very good at listening to the ground, they're like, aha.
That's what they want.
That's what they want. Let's talk. Let's tell them about it. Before, it used to be this small development projects. Shule hapa, hospitali pale, barabara hapa. And they'd come and say, hii barabara kutoka hapa Lukukuku mpaka Lukuya.
Yeah.
Tunajenga.
Yes, kutoka Gungulupa mpaka Gungulugi. Yes.
Tutajenga. Anyway, let's take a break at this point. It's 9:30, Kenya's biggest conversation. With us in the studio is a political analyst, Gerard Bitok. We are talking about politics. Kwanza, when we come back out of this break, we'll talk about that whole fiasco that was happening in Karen on Saturday. 17 hours. 17 hours. And people would like us to believe that William Ruto was actually
confused.
For 17 hours. He was not sure. Okay, no, you guys, man. I mean, okay, so let's call 1,000 people.
Okay, so what do you want?
Okay, let's call the MPs. Ay, you people, bana. Simukubaliane.
Unataka nini?
Okay, wacha basi nitaamua. And they want us to believe that 17 hours for William Ruto to come to that point. And Raila Odinga, he said, saa 5 asubuhi kesho. It's about 1.5 hours from here. Will it be at 11 a.m.?
Or 11 p.m.?
Or 11 p.m.
11:59.
11:59. Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take this quick break.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Remember when Silas reminded McKenna?
There's different kinds of justice.
Prepare for the return of detective duo McKenna and Silas, fighting to protect their lives as they discover a justice system infiltrated by a mysterious cartel. So, will the law prevail? Get ready for Crime and Justice Season 2, A System Corrupted.
Watch Crime and Justice only on showmax.com.
A drizzle in Nairobi at 17. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 16 today. Sunny at 17 in Nakuru, highs of 25 and lows of 14. 14 will also be the low. In a rainy Nyeri at 16, going to highs of 23. We'll see highs of 26 in Eldoret, where it's sunny at 17, coming down to lows of 13. Light rain continues in Mombasa at 27, highs of 31 and lows of 25. We'll look at lows of 27 in Malindi, where it's also raining, highs of 30. Mostly sunny conditions in Kisumu this morning at 23. We'll see highs of 29 and lows of 19, while we'll see highs of 28 in Kakamega. It's mostly sunny right now at 21. It's raining in Kampala at 24, highs of 27 and lows of 18, while it's partly sunny in Dar es Salaam at 26. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 23. It's 10 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 18 and lows of 7, and mostly sunny now in Lagos at 27. We'll see highs of 33. The sun is out as well in Kinshasa at 25, highs of 33 and lows of 24. Going into Monday evening, Beijing is sunny at 28. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 12. 18 degrees and coming into the summer months soon, it's cloudy in Paris, highs of 26. We'll see highs of 22 with a haze over London at 14 and lows of 13. And still Sunday night in New York, it's 18 degrees. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 22 and lows of 14. And there's traffic on the expressway this morning. Who would have thunk it? Well, we'll have to see what happens with that this morning. On the lower roads, not so much. It's looking much better than it was earlier this morning. Mombasa Road is looking like a dream. Langata Road, however, is looking like a nightmare. Hopefully folks will wake up without too much of a scratch this morning. Uhuru Highway then getting into the city. The CBD is taking a hit from all ends this morning. The thicker superhighway looking a little bit better than it was before. No traffic as you get all the way through to the Pangani underpass, but then traffic coming off of Kiambu Road at Muthaiga Square will feed into Murang'a Road this morning. We're out of traffic hour in terms of time, but there's still some traffic on the roads. And if you use the expressway this morning, tell us what it looks like. Talk to us through the morning on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Business News with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. The Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, James Macharia, has lauded the completion of the construction of the Nairobi Expressway, even as they described the highway project as one of the biggest private investments in Kenya from China to date. The CS said the multi-billion shillings road project linking Kenya's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to the western parts of the city will, over and above everything, help stimulate Kenya's economic growth. Now, Jambo Jet, in partnership with Kenya Tourism Board, has launched a 3-month campaign dubbed Now Travel Ready Tembea Kenya to encourage more Kenyans to tour local attraction sites and destinations. Kenya's aviation market has shown tremendous signs of recovery this year, realizing up to 94% of pre-COVID domestic travel in 2019. However, the travel cycle in Kenya consists of a high season during school and public holidays and a low season between May to July. Karanja added that the partnership brings together the government of Kenya and hotels in the various destinations where Jambojet offers all-inclusive flying packages that will include discounted air ticket and accommodation. The Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries will spend 50 million shillings in the 2022-2023 financial year to modernize coffee factories in 3 coffee-growing sub-counties in Nyeri County. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Muga, while on a tour of the Wamagana fish processing plant in Tetu, Nyeri County, said that the revamp was part of the ongoing coffee sub-sector reforms, which are aimed at modernizing the coffee infrastructure and encouraging farmers to increase production. According to Muga, only a few factories will benefit from the first phase of the renovations, but the ministry intends to scale up projects to include all coffee factories later. For Spice Business, I'm Dan.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
24 to 10. Conversation continues. Eric Ndu CT and Gerald Bitalk, who is a political analyst. We are talking about this headache, or maybe not, or the earthquake that is the running mate conversation. So earlier, William Ruto had said, running mate, that's the easiest decision for us, but can we talk about other things? Saturday, what was this that was happening? And Karen, you know you have friends in high places, Jared.
I appreciate that.
So what is it? What happened?
So you see, now it's easy until it gets to a point where you have to make a decision. And it's never been easy because it means interest as well. That people have interest, people have friends. And in politics, negotiations don't happen just as a hobby. You don't just come to have a story and say, oh, CT, you're my guy. Let's have a conversation. It's about interest. Even the best of your friend keeps pulling your shirt and saying, what's in it for me? So when it gets to that point, people start thinking for themselves as well. They start thinking, okay, what is in it for us? The guy that is getting in there, is it a guy that we have maybe a soft relationship with? Is it someone we can use to get where we want? So when it gets to that point, of course, there has to be some level of diversion. And prior to that, there have been some very serious lobbying. For the first time, ever since the DP started these campaigns, they have never been seen a visible campaign for anyone to be a running mate. And that's why we kept guessing. Could it be this guy? Could it be this guy? Could it be Waiguru? Could it be... Even Kindiki came the other day. Nobody was talking about Kindiki. When Speaker Muduri came in, we imagined that maybe it could be him, finally. And it turned out it wasn't him. So, of course, there was some interest that was playing out in terms of who the people who come from their field, they have the interest represented well, and who does DP himself as William Ruto feel that can help him run the campaign. Because when you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent, or maybe you can pay rent as I pay for school fees, or you can do this and do that. So in politics, that's what happens. You're looking for someone who can help you bring in the other cake that you're missing. The reason why Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto were able to win elections in 2013 against seasoned politicians at that time, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Mudavadi and all that, is the way the politics were mobilized. Understand the environment of politics in Kenya. In an ideal world, you don't care who you pick as a running mate. Oh, you guys are giving us, what's your manifesto? What do you want to do for us? We'll vote for you. We'll compare on that. In Kenya, our politics is mobilized around numbers. And where are the numbers? They're in tribes. Committed, you're saying it's ethnically mobilized. So you'll be lacking like, who can lock a base? If you're looking at Western Kenya, who do you think in Western Kenya can lock a base? If you're looking, for instance, at Central Kenya, which region can help you lock the base, and who exactly can help you mobilize and lock that base?
Okay.
So,
academic.
Regarding
on Saturday, they were looking at who can lock the Mount Kenya base.
Yes.
If you look at all those
Basic.
names that were
Very
featuring.
basic. So when you look at
it was
Rigathi,
Rigathi, it was Kindiki, it was Governor Waiguru, it was Ndindi Nyoro, it was, who else was there? There's Speaker Muturi.
Yes, Speaker Muturi was there.
All those Central Kenya. Now, I mean, they're not names that have just been drawn out of a hat suddenly on Saturday. They already had prepared themselves as they were getting towards Saturday. So what exactly was happening on Saturday? Why did it take so long to narrow down on Rigathi Gachagua?
Okay, in what I'm getting, in terms I'm getting, there was a headlock between Rigathi Gachagua and Kithure Kindiki. Kithure Kindiki has been lobbying very intensely to run as a running mate. And Gachagua as well believed he has been in the course long enough to deserve a running mate position. And the DP took time to describe every other person who wanted to be the running mate individually. Describe Waiguru differently. She's an amazing woman, has a good track record as a woman, this and this and that. Describe Justin Muturi, this and that. Described Samson. That's when I knew Samson. Ndindi Nyoro is called Samson. Described Samson Ndindi Nyoro. He was described. Described Kithure Kindiki. He's been through the gallows with him. And then he described Rigathi Gachagua. Excellent mobilizer. Bold. Loyal to the cause and all that. I mean, in short, he was telling you what he was looking for in his running mate. Is Rigathi Gachagua all that? Kindiki is a good gentleman. And in politics, we have enough evidence that gentlemanness doesn't pay. If being a gentleman paid, Mudavadi would have been president. If being a gentleman paid, Gideon Moi would have been president. Kalonzo Musyoka would have been president. All these gentlemen that you see in politics. Sometimes you have, first of all, to win an election. What does it take to win an election? It takes mobilization. Rigathi Gachagua has a base that he has mobilized. And Rigathi Gachagua is the only person who can look Uhuru in the eye. Can Kindiki do that? He cannot. Because now, Uhuru has said he's going to start campaigning soon as a chairman of Azimio. You need someone who can look him in the eye at his base and tell him you're not going to buy your story. Gachagua has done that several times. He has shown the capability to do that, to counter Uhuru Kenyatta in Central Kenya. So if at all you're going to maintain Central Kenya as it is, you need a strong figure that can mobilize and can also be bold in what he says. And that is why he picked Rigathi Gachagua. On the flip side, it could be what we are seeing right now. We are having a government where the president and the deputy president are fighting. With this boldness and these mobilization skills, what risk does Gachagua give to William Ruto as a president? It's on the place that it could be dangerous. But now I think the priority is let's win the election. We shall deal. So talking about Saturday, the gridlock that was there, and the deadlock that was there, I want to imagine that every other person was lobbying. And I can tell you this, if you are participating in a political process, you understand that there are things called interest. And they play out at the last minute.
How would it play out, looking at it at party level, if from what we've seen, all indications that the popular individual was Kindiki, and then the selection was made based on what the DP himself was looking for? How will it play out from where you see it then in party, in internal party politics moving forward? That this is what we would have wanted to happen as the party.
I think
this is what the leaders, picked. Do we see a rift then forming?
I'm not seeing any rift forming. For instance, the biggest test for parties were nominations. If a party survived the nomination debacle that it was, the way people complained it was shambolic and all that, but people have moved on. Politics is so beautiful. You cry overnight like Kenyans. Now you're going to cry about the cost of fuel. The next day we are good. We are fueling. We are all lining up to fuel. The same way, the other day they're having a gridlock on the expressway. We are paying, and we say this thing we are not going to climb up on it. We hop on it. So politics is mobilized that way. Unalia kidogo alafu unaitwa unaambiwa sasa wewe na vile maneno imekaa wewe utakutafutia mahali ukae. So there was you analyze your risk. What was the risk of not picking Gachagua? You had seen it already playing out in Nyeri, and Nyeri has been almost DP's base, William Ruto's base. What was the risk of losing Gachagua over losing Kindiki? So there is a lesser risk in losing Kindiki than losing Rigathi Gachagua, and I think it's the candidate who is running, who wants to win an election. He has to make a decision whether he wants to listen to his people and lose an election, or he makes a decision on what it takes, he knows it takes to win an election, and win that election and ensure that everybody has a I can tell you this, the government is a jungle. Did you ever know there was something going to be formed called CS positions? They are there to cover for people like these guys who are complaining, tulia, tukiingia kwa serikali tapata yako.
Chukua gari.
The other day I was driving through Karen and I realized there's actually an institution that deals with nuclear energy in this country.
Yep.
And you wonder, where is the nuclear energy?
We see you're working on it.
Nikazi. So, Kithure Kindiki, of course, has a place. I don't know which statement he's going to make today, but it's too late to make any...
Why do you say it's too late?
Which move can he make? For instance, leave Kenya Kwanza?
No.
Okay, so what can he do?
She can vie.
As who? President?
No, as senator.
Then that is the best option. That he can do, because you wanted to be governor, but now we are done with the nomination process. Is the party willing to revoke the certificate that was given to the candidate there and give him a direct ticket?
He can go as independent.
So is it that he is the one who has waited until it's too late, or is it that the processes that our political parties put in place disadvantage any people who might be disgruntled? Meaning it's at the 11th hour and the options you're left with are all glum. They are all, they are non-options, so to speak. Because if you're talking about negotiations, why is it that in our politics people feel that if you don't get what you thought you would get, you must move to another party? Why don't you just stay within the party? After all, it is your party.
And
those positions, it's one position. It's not as though there were 10 and the other, and everybody got except yourself.
Yes, and that's what I keep telling these guys, that you can only have one running mate. You cannot have 10, you cannot have 5, you cannot have 3. You can only have one running mate. And in every competitive decision like that, people are going to lose, unless you're going to compete alone. But if you're competing with other people, you have to accept that you could lose and you could be the winner. On the flip side, think about what if you had been picked. What could have happened to other people? So what Kindiki can do? He's a good guy. He's a sober gentleman, and I know is going to renegotiate again within the coalition, Kenya Kwanza coalition, and get something. Look at Moses Kuria. Moses Kuria yesterday, he had made a post that it's a sad day in central Kenya. By evening, he was giving us news that he has been given the chairmanship of the economic task force within the Kenya Kwanza campaign. So at this point, as a politician, you have to choose your bed early. And that's the problem that is happening even on the national platform. If you don't choose your bed early, then you have a problem. Ikifika mahali kumbe kitanda iko yako, then you have to be comfortable sleeping on the cold, either sleeping in the cold or negotiating for a bed sheet. Naambia sawa umechukua kitanda lakini zaidi ya bed sheet ijifunike. That's the best way to negotiate. But if you want to say you're going to move out of the house, then there's nothing they can be sure about out there. So Kindiki, he has to accept that the process as it was also political. It was not an interview to work in a company. It was political. So sometimes the political questions, the advantages, the pros and cons has to come at play.
To play.
Yeah.
Let's look ahead into what expected to happen today on the Azimio side. So Raila, who is the flag bearer for Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party, has said today, Satano, is going to announce his running mates. The people who presented themselves to the interview panel are those that now appear to be close. So there's Martha Karua, there's Kalonzo Musyoka, there's Peter Kenneth, there's Sabina Chege, there's Peter Munya. Who else?
Sabina Chege. Oh, you mentioned Sabina Chege. Yes, yeah.
Those 5. Right?
There's Stephen Tarus. Former ambassador, Stephen Tarus.
Ambassador Stephen Tarus.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I did.
Well done.
I can say it again.
Please
Kalonzo Musyoka.
He might want you to do that.
Looking at those, where do you see the chips falling? Let's start with you, Gerard.
First of all, I think if I was to advise Raila Odinga, I would tell him to pick Kalonzo Musyoka. If there is one political suicidal move that Raila Odinga is going to make, is going to Central Kenya to pick a running mate.
Why?
He'll lose at, if he was losing at 6:30 a.m., he'll lose at 5.
Why?
Here's the reason. Within the choices that he has for Central Kenya, who can counter Rigathi? Is it Kanini Kega? Kanini Kega was accused the other day of selling Raila
is
like
not in the
bang.
running, but
I'm going to Central Kenya. I'm just thinking, just throwing a wild card in the people that you could have. His allies.
So
his allies.
Don't bring.
I'm starting from the bottom, coming up.
No.
So you pick from the list.
Okay, we have a list of 6.
Let's pick. Let's look at Martha Karua. Martha Karua has lost a political bid twice. He lost the other day gubernatorial, and I think she also saw she was losing the other day, and he decided to play the national politics. We saw what happened when he tried to take Raila Odinga to Kirinyaga. Yes, Kirinyaga. You saw what happened there. I mean, our mobilization skills are at question. Now, the next person would be Peter Kenneth. Yes. Peter Kenneth, how many years has Peter Kenneth been in the political cold? And how much has he been able to mobilize? Look at Central Kenya as it is. The two people have been accused, and even more, the allies have been accused of not selling Raila Odinga in Central Kenya. When you go to Central Kenya, you find billboards and posters, there's no Baba. But in Nairobi, they talk about Baba. So who can counter the wave that William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua are going to create there? Who can Raila pick that he believes? Not unless he's going to pick Uhuru Kenyatta as a running mate. But of all the choices that he has, Peter Kenneth, he cannot deliver. Martha Karua, he cannot deliver.
Sabina
Chege, she cannot deliver.
Peter Munya.
That is for a fact. Peter Munya is struggling even to fight the Kiretu Murungi wave in Meru. So he cannot deliver. That's for a fact. Now, if I was Raila Odinga, I'll pick Kalonzo for this reason. Pick Kalonzo Musyoka and start a narrative that only 2 communities cannot run the country. Very beautiful narrative. It's clear.
So you completely alienate that Mount Kenya 5 million votes.
5 million votes, who is carrying them? Is the question. Because I look at the mobilization scheme as it is.
The votes are up for grabs, man.
Politics is very scientific. It's about mobilization. How does the ground feel when a certain person goes there to speak to them? It has been very obvious. What happens when Martha Karua tries to mobilize? It's been obvious, you've seen it. What happens when Peter Kenneth tries to mobilize? You've seen it. You've seen what has happened. What happens when Sabina Chege tries to mobilize? And the most interesting thing about these candidates for running mate from Central Kenya is they never campaign in Central Kenya. The only time they seen in Central Kenya is when Baba is in Central Kenya. The moment Baba leaves, they leave all of them. Now you're seeing Sabina Chege in Migori or Homa Bay campaigning at Baba's bedroom. There's no votes that you're going to get for Raila Odinga extra from Homa Bay. Peter Kenneth campaigns in Nairobi only when there are rallies. Martha Karua, have you seen any campaigns that she does in Central Kenya? So if you was to advise Raila Amolo Odinga, in all honesty, go for Kalonzo Musyoka.
And leave the others. Ndu, who would you go for?
It's a narrative.
If you were to advise Raila Odinga today.
I mean, look, it would, because of what all the calls are at the moment, that it seems as though he does need to woo the Central Kenya vote at this point. Plus, I mean, we've also heard the calls that they feel as though the women have been left out of his campaign. That would make sense for him to then do that, because then there is a clarion call for him to look at women as part of his campaign. I would probably say that he would be able to then have this double-edged sword of going for a woman and somebody who's from Central Kenya who could move the vote, who could move in numbers. Martha Karua seems like a good choice for him, who's been stable in her politics.
Do you think she can mobilize a substantial number of votes? You know, because running mate is also coming in. Can you mobilize the votes in our support? Not necessarily in Mount Kenya, but in any other base.
I think she could. I mean, the same thing I was saying, start a new narrative here, whereby you say, this is somebody that I'm presenting to you as an option. Start a new narrative. And who's to say that you cannot do that? You know? And it's never too late to that. You can. Start a new narrative. It's
a question of, if I'm to comment on what Ndu is saying, before I say what I want to say, it's a question of whether the Azimio candidates or personalities from Central Kenya are willing to support Martha Karua, or whoever they support. Because on her, this isn't a question of how many votes can Martha Karua bring. It's that group of people from the mountains, are they able to marshal sufficient votes? And then there's the question of what you call sufficient votes. See, my view, we've never had an election such as this one.
No.
There are very many balls right up in the air, okay? Against a backdrop of whatever Raila Odinga may or may not have gotten in central Kenya has always been a subject of debate. There is the narrative that was spread for the longest time, which proved to be extremely effective. And so now trying to reverse that particular narrative to say that Raila is a possible candidate, the narrative I've heard which comes closest to trying to address it is, oh, both these candidates are bad, but one is worse than the other. And I'm thinking, God almighty, what sort of narrative is that? Anyway, there is the view that Raila himself cannot marshal votes just as Raila in central Kenya. It's a fallacy, in my view. It's a fallacy because to say that is to assume that in all the years Raila Odinga has been in politics, there are no people in central Kenya who can actually vote for him. That the DP is popular in central Kenya is not a subject of debate. It's just a fact. So what percentage of votes are we talking about? Now, if I'm to go by the nominations that we saw that ended, and I look at the numbers that actually came in for the nominations, it was a dismal number. And then we have this unique situation where there is no one of substance that is from the mountain who is actually vying for the presidency. So how will central Kenya vote this time around? Because it has never been tested when one of their own isn't actually vying and isn't a visibly viable candidate. How are they going to vote? And when you say how they're going to vote, is Nyeri going to vote the same as Murang'a? Is Murang'a going to vote the same as Kirinyaga, as Kiambu, as those are the questions that I'm asking myself, because when people talk of the mountain, it's like there's this homogeneous understanding, and I'm saying
maybe not.
Maybe not.
Just to remind you, by the way, there's a Kikuyu presidential candidate.
Which one?
Jimmy Wanjigi.
I didn't mention Jimmy Wanjigi because I actually included him when I made the statement. There is yes, you heard what I said.
Nice save. So what about you, Eric?
I think I want to approach it from this angle. From the formation of this coalition. First, we started with Azimio. Azimio was Jubilee, ODM, and then the others started joining in. Maendeleo Chap came, DAPK, the others were joining. But it was Jubilee, ODM as the principals in Azimio. Then there's One Kenya on the other side, which is Wiper and KANU primarily. And then the others also joining in. What's the name of Jirongo's party? That one.
It's called DP. No, DP is the other.
No.
Yes, there's
Yep, Kenya is a different one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
Jirongo has a party.
So Azimio, one side, and One Kenya, the other side. Then they come together, One Kenya, Azimio, One Kenya. And they meet. Who brings what to the table? Raila Odinga brings his political pedigree and the numbers that he has to the table, right? Jubilee is fractured, is wounded, but it has the president who's in office. Okay? What does Uhuru bring to the table? I've always said Uhuru brings the table to the table and says, okay, ndio hii meza, kujeni. Na ako na viti kadhaa. One Kenya joining up with Azimio was basically One Kenya coming to Azimio. So it was Kalonzo coming to Uhuru and Raila. Right? The reading is on the wall. From what we saw from Dan Mahanzo speaking yesterday, from what we've been seeing from Senator Enoch Kwambua, the writing is on the wall. Mene tekil, was it? Ufahasin. Things are done. It's done for Kalonzo. He's not it. I don't think Kalonzo is the candidate that's going to be unveiled today. Otherwise, his insiders would not be making the kind of noise they're making.
Or the moves they're making as of this
overnight.
morning. Yeah.
They wouldn't. So Kalonzo out. Now, Peter Kenneth and Sabina Chege are the Jubilee nominees for this position.
And they're both from Murang'a.
Why did Uhuru nominate Peter Kenneth and Sabina Chege as his nominees to this position? They're both from Murang'a. Murang'a has never produced a president or a vice president. Well, we could argue about Professor Joseph Joguna. He was Kiambu, though.
Karanja was Kiambu, Baba.
So no vice president and no president. And Muranga people have been grumbling, kichini chini. So, I'm left with those two. So it's either going to be Martha Karua or Peter Kenneth or Sabina Chege. Any of those three.
Can that ticket win an election?
Which one?
Either of the two.
Yes.
Or the three.
Yes.
Okay.
Remember where the table is.
Remember who's bringing the table?
They could be the table. There's nothing to eat on the table. If nobody is bringing anything, what do you say?
You see the
campaigns, like you said, we are starting to campaign now.
Yes.
All the work that you've been doing that has been done previously can be undone.
Yes.
By
the same
visibility.
narration of an idea that you talked about. That formation can start now.
But I can assure you guys.
By visibility, by conversation,
I want to give you a
by
plate.
ground, by everything. The mobilization that can be rolled out by the Azimio One Kenya from this point on to the end.
I'll tell you
this.
Can
be mind-boggling.
I'll tell you this. I've participated in campaigns actively. I've drawn campaign strategies. I've been in the game of the campaigns. In politics, I've been in politics. Not long enough, but I've been in it enough to know that traction matters.
We've taken note of the disclaimer, but go on.
And I can assure you, and I want to tell you these guys here. We have less than 84 days to the general elections. From everything that you're seeing around, either the disorder or the order that you're seeing in any of these political formations, the way it is right now is exactly the way it will be in September. Nothing will change. Hardly. The only thing that might change is the narrative. You're seeing the narrative that's being shaped now to your opinion polls and all that. Narrative could come out very strongly. That's what is going to happen. The DP side will be branded as corrupt, and these are stories now. They have a corrupt ticket and all that. There'll be a lot of narratives flying.
So who do you see as a winning ticket?
This I'll tell you.
Uhuru Kenyatta. Ruto Gachagua?
I want to look at the individuals first of all.
We have 30 seconds. We have 30 seconds.
Uhuru Kenyatta will not be able to do much right now in Central Kenya. To reverse much. He'll not be able to reverse much. Raila Odinga will not be able to make any more inroads in Central Kenya and any other region whatsoever. Those are the tickets. Now we're looking at the other ticket. It's already galvanized. They have been doing it. So Central Kenya will remain as it is. It will not move. And Rift Valley will remain as it is. And Western Kenya, Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula will chip in with the votes that NASA had previously. The only ticket that was going to give Ruto a run for the money is former NASA as it was. If NASA had remained as it was, trust me, William Ruto winning an election would have been very difficult.
Now it's gone.
But I can tell you right now, Kenya Kwanza will be the pact that will be sworn in at Kasarani come September. And I'm holding my word against it.
Asante.
And I'll come back here to redeem that.
Let's hold you to that. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Let's watch out for what happens at KICC this morning. Good morning, 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Morning, this is Newswire Dennis.